Southwest Airlines came in fourth in the world's best low-cost airlines. Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
A revolver believed to be used by Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh to kill himself has sold for about $146,000 at auction in Paris. An unidentified buyer purchased the 7mm pocket revolver earlier today. The gun was discovered in the 1960s in fields in a northern French village where Van Gogh is widely believed to have shot himself in the chest in 1890. I'm Rich Dennison, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news from the newsroom. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting for Bob Fisher. Democratic Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer of Dubuque is sponsoring legislation aimed at increasing pay for rural doctors.
Iowa doctors have been shortchanged by a government formula that underestimates the cost of labor and practice expenses.
Doctors in rural areas are paid far less for the care they provide elderly Medicare patients. The formula is meant to account for cost of living differences, but Iowa doctors say it's not covering all their expenses.
And for 2 decades, our healthcare providers have asked for an accurate formula, one that allows them to stay open and keep serving their patients.
Dr. Brian Privet, the president-elect of the Iowa Medical Society, joined Finkenauer at a Cedar Rapids hospital to discuss the issue.
Without immediate action, Iowa will fall further behind in the competition to recruit the next generation of physicians, and our seniors will face greater difficulty in accessing necessary medical care.
According to Finkenauer, Iowa doctors have the 7th lowest Medicare reimbursement rate in the country. An Iowa health coach accused of defrauding dozens of people who lost more than $6.5 million by investing in a gym program has taken a plea deal. U.S. District Court records say 49-year-old Mark Blanketspore pleaded guilty Friday to 1 count of wire fraud. Prosecutors dropped 23 more counts in return for his plea. His sentencing is scheduled for October 24th. Prosecutors say Blanketspore told investors from at least May 2013 through this past January that the medically oriented program would be licensed to fitness clinics nationwide and that investors could earn a 40% return on their money. But prosecutors say Blanketspore instead used the money for himself and to pay other investors. An author from Central Iowa is releasing a new book that focuses on the successes and stumbles of some of the region's most well-known figures. Aaron Putsey of Ankeny says his nonfiction book, You Are Destined for Greatness, is a compilation of lessons learned by those who have excelled in business, sports, academia, finance, retail, and elected office.
It's a book of inspiration and empowerment, stories that have been shared with me over the last few years by 27 notable and influential people, with many with Midwest and Iowa roots.
The list includes former University of Iowa football star Chuck Long and his coach Hayden Fry, Ambassador and former Governor Terry Branstad, and Randy Edeker, Chairman and CEO of Hy-Vee. Putsey says his book zeroes in on how our attitudes and the choices we make impact everything we attempt and achieve.
We can all use a little bit more inspiration and aspiration in how we go about living our lives, especially during a time where there just seems to be a constant stream of negative news and negative information. We can all use our battery charge now and then.
Putsey says books sold through his website, putseyinc.com, will benefit the youth organization Junior Achievement. Transportation officials say Interstate 29 in northwest Missouri and southwest Iowa has been reopened as floodwaters recede. The interstate has been closed since May 29th because of flooding and flood-related damage. Reports say that traffic will be restricted to 1 lane in some stretches between St. Joseph and Interstate 80 in Iowa. Transportation officials warn travelers to plan ahead for gas or restroom breaks because several exits along the interstate from St. Joseph to US 34 in Glenwood, Iowa remain partially or completely closed. Iowans who have lost loved ones to pancreatic cancer are preparing for a trip to Washington, D.C. next week, and they're taking along a sort of secret weapon in the quest for more federal funds. Amy Jardin, who chairs the Cedar Falls affiliate of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, says an Iowa survivor of the nation's deadliest form of cancer will be joining their ranks.
On Tuesday, we go to Capitol Hill and we meet with our senators and our representative and their office staff members to explain why we're passionate about pancreatic cancer, why we need more funding, and that we're there to ask for money.
The additional funding is needed for further research and to raise awareness about a type of cancer for which the vague symptoms are often ignored.
I'm optimistic that we'll get the same as what we asked for last year, but whether or not we would have the increase of funding that we ask for each year is always up in the air.
Jordan's mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2012 and died 13 days later. Typically, 70% of those who are diagnosed die within a year. A 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer is only 9%, which is why having a survivor as part of the 17-member Iowa delegation to Washington is so rare.
Congress members and their staff, they hear our stories and about our loved ones that we've lost. But when they are faced with a pancreatic cancer survivor, it is amazing what happens, magic that happens in the room.
Statistics find about 580 Iowans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year, and 430 of them will die from it. It's the third leading cause of cancer death in the United States and is expected to become the second leading cause of cancer death by 2020. Jordan says it will be a privilege to lobby alongside someone who's beaten all the odds.
They get a lot of respect, and they have the person with the Congress member's office has a lot of questions for a survivor. Because it is so unusual to meet with an actual survivor of pancreatic cancer.
The survival rate is slowly rising thanks to better treatments and more awareness. One goal is to double the survival rate within the next few years, which advocates say is possible through more research, clinical initiatives, patient services, and advocacy year-round. Symptoms can be vague, ranging from abdominal pain to back pain, changes in stool, yellowing skin, weight loss, appetite loss, and a feeling of being full after only eating a little food. Thursday is National Call Congress Day, where people are asked to urge their elected officials to make cancer research a national priority. You can learn more at pancan.org/call Congress. From the newsroom, I'm Jesse Stewart reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. High temperatures reach up to 75 this afternoon under cloudy skies, northeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows level off around 56. Tonight, partly cloudy. Mainly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, chance for isolated storms, high of 77. Upper 70s. Friday, low 80s by Saturday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 71.
Iowa hog farmers have a lot to be proud of.
Proud of the quality products we put on tables around the world.
Proud of the strides we make to protect Iowa's natural resources.
Proud of the number of Iowans we're able to employ in safe workplaces.
Proud to protect and promote animal well-being in everything we do.
Iowa pork producers are proud because they do it right. And that's something all Iowans can take pride in.
Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
Iowa's pork producers work hard daily to produce safe, affordable food. Through the industry's We Care initiative, hog farmers are firmly committed to doing things right. That means keeping their pigs safe and healthy, safeguarding natural resources, protecting public health, and building strong communities. Producers fully understand the importance of pork quality, responsible production, and continuous improvement. It's the moral and ethical thing to do. Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
The Orange Tag sale is going on now at the General Store. Come in and take 50% off everything with an Orange Tag. This is the perfect time to shop for summer. From shorts, sandals, and tanks to skirts, dress shirts, and capris, the General Store has something for everyone. Look for the Orange Tag and save 50% right now. And remember, everything at the General Store is tax-free, and all proceeds go toward helping people in our community. Hurry in now and save 50% on everything with an Orange Tag at the General Store, 12 North 25th. Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a dumbass. Agreeing completely with that sentiment, City Councilman Dr. Terry Menke, poet, warrior, porn star, scholar, intellectual. I think you are probably the smartest human being in the town. I'm sorry, in the town. I should not lessen you in that way. In the state, maybe the Midwest. Let's keep going.
No, that's not true.
That's not true? Well, who's smarter?
No.
Kim Allstott.
No. Several attorneys claim to be. So that's
several attorneys. Who would they be?
Well, I can't mention them, but one of them's on Friday afternoon with you.
What, are you being sued?
No, not that hard.
Nevin suing you?
Nope, not that hard. Nope.
Well, let's get.
Did you see? Speaking of that, did you see where Unity Point now is making a profit? $6.8 million was all over the paper.
Why, they weren't before?
Well, no, they weren't. They lost money last year, but there was an amazing coincidence that our other Nevin Conrad, is not now on the board out there. So he turned it around. I give him full credit for that. I'm sure he did everything he could to make them money. So,
I'm sure so. Why the shot at Nevin Mulholland?
no, there was no shot.
There was a shot.
No.
There was a shot. Hi, Terry Mickey is the smartest guy in the world. No. Lawyers are one who's on the air with you on Friday. That was a shot, Mickey. Come on, man. What's he doing? Suing you or something?
No.
Has he showed you in the past or something?
No, Nevin and I get along fine. We're very sociable.
Oh, that
don't see him very much.
That was just pointless snark. It wasn't subliminal. It wasn't a subliminal attack.
No claim of anything there. No, I missed you out there on Sunday.
Change the subject quick on that one before you do.
No, I want to touch on this real quick because it was a great ceremony. We welcomed Herschel Woody Williams, who is the last remaining Marine Medal of Honor winner from World War II, Iwo Jima, the last one alive from Iwo Jima II, one of the 70, soon to be 71 living Medal of Honor winners. And so he was in town to do the Gold Star family dedication out at Kennedy Park. And I can honestly tell you that he is a very impressive man. He is, you just feel it. I've met a lot of world leaders. I've met a lot of politicians, a lot of entertainers. I've met a lot of people. And this guy is by far the most impressive gentleman that I've ever met. He is very, very down to earth. He was 23 years old when he won the Medal of Honor.
What were the circumstances of his winning? Do you recall?
Well, I don't know if you really win it. That's I question. You got to be careful. He's a recipient of the Medal of Honor.
Yes.
He actually was a.
So you have to be careful of what?
Well,
taking him off?
No, I was. It's like the Purple Heart. You don't win a Purple Heart as your son.
You're awarded.
You're awarded it.
Yes, my son was awarded for being in a truck. Blew up.
Yeah, in the wrong place at the
wrong
time.
place in the wrong time.
Woody was actually an explosive guy, and he was trained in flamethrowers, and he was brought into Iwo Jima. That he was actually there the day of the flag raising, which we have on the park monument out there is the flag raising on Iwo Jima. And he was for 4 hours. He took on the Japanese with his flamethrower, back and forth, reloading and going back and forth and saving.
I did read
people.
that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a little guy. He was rejected at first. He was too small to go in the Marine Corps, and then they changed their height standards in 43, 44 or something like that. So he's about 5'6" or so.
Yeah.
But he went back and forth. And like he said, he didn't know was going to be awarded this. He came back home, was wounded, and came back home. And they called him up one day and said, "We want you to be in Washington, D.C." And they gave him the Medal of Honor. And he said that was completely unexpected. He got out of the service and joined again and retired. He was in the reserves actually and retired out of the reserves, which you apparently have a hard time doing. And he was able to do that because of his honor. But a very nice man. And I said we spent the day with him, and I gave him a ride down to Des Moines. His grandson was here, Chad Graham, and the ceremony was very nice. I want to thank Matt Bemrick and Mark Campbell for coming out and participating. We had Mary Field there, whose son Nathan was from Gowrie, was killed in an accident over in Iraq a few years ago. And then Denny's Cantos, who was a Marine that more or less coaches, I guess, and teaches Spanish over at senior high. And Tom Dorsey and the Veterans Council did a great job helping put this together. So we appreciate everybody for stepping up, and we had a pretty good crowd out there. And I think it was a very enlightening, somber occasion. It was very tough listening to some of the talks, but it was a good afternoon.
Sure. Yeah.
So I got something you don't have too.
What do you have?
I have a challenge coin from Woody Williams.
A challenge coin from Woody?
Yeah.
Okay, what is this now?
No, you know what
We're always in 6th grade.
No. Challenge coins basically when you go into a bar and you pull out something. If you have something that's cool, and the guy that has the highest rank, has to buy, or the other guy has to buy him a drink.
Oh, that's military stuff.
Yeah, military.
I thought you meant a real challenge, like going into. You
can't have this. This is mine. There's very few of these around. So
that's really nice.
Yeah.
But really, I used to go in some of those 6th Street bars where they pulled knives on the way out.
Yeah, I didn't believe that.
That was pre-automatic weapons.
Yeah, but anyway,
it's another reason I suppose by contemporary liberal standards, Mr. Woods is some sort of war criminal.
Woody Williams.
Woody Williams, I beg your pardon. Woody Williams.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams would be a war criminal for burning up some minorities on a distant island.
It was a war. We were a declaration of war. But anyway, I did get a
Declaration of war. Does
Yeah.
that morally acquit us?
Yep.
Liberals are moral. Did you know that?
But I
So
did take
much
him around
more
town a
moral.
little bit. I took him out to the Freedom Rock. He wasn't really familiar with the Iowa
moral,
Freedom Rocks,
moral.
so we took him out there. And I also took him down to Amigos for a little sandwich. And then, of course, having the opportunity, I took him over to the Silo Art and took a picture of him against the
That's
Silo
good.
Art. So I had to get down a little bit because he's kind of a small guy, and I had to get the whole silo in.
Come on, lay off Woody and his size thing.
He's great. And actually, he's quite spry for 95 years old. He drives a slingshot. Isn't that the same thing Danklaw's got? One of those.
He had one, little three-wheeler.
Yeah, that's Woody has one too. He's got it in his garage, so he drives it every once in a while. So he's quite an interesting man. So anyway, other than that, Parks and Rec the other night went to the meeting, and Noon Rotary was there representing their interests in the park. They've dumped a lot of money in the park. ISG has been working on this plan. I got a chance to participate a little bit in some of the envisioning things last year. The plan is to open up the park, make it more accessible, make it more walkable, allow people to get down closer to the water, down towards Granger cabins and whatever. There will be a roundabout or two put in there from the looks of it, which will be exciting. And it's going to open it up. And it's the only a couple problems that I have with it is, first off, we've got Loomis that we're still working on. We got Olson Park we're still working on. Expo Park, they're going to start an envisioning plan on that. And now we're looking at, Snell Crawford. So we've got a lot of parks that we're planning for, and I just want to get Olson Park a lot farther along. Before
I had the city manager in here yesterday, and I'm sure
Mr.
you obsessively went over the SoundCloud post, trying to find fault with what Furyk was saying.
Yeah.
But we were talking about Snell Crawford,
Mhm.
and I asked David Furyk about Olson Park.
Right.
Because there doesn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm over there.
Well, we're slowly.
He acts like he's powerless before the Parks and Rec department.
Now, the park is progressing. The trail work is continuing. The internal work hasn't really started yet from last time I was down there. And I can't say it hasn't changed yet, but at the last council meeting, we did approve additional funding for ISG to develop the pond, which will be put in this fall yet. So the work is progressing, and we're going to probably change around that trail system inside and get the pathways in. As far as future work, I guess we're going to take that step by step. There's plan to put a natural playscape in there, adjacent to what we used to call the winter quarters, the concrete buildings there. And then also eventually we'll be looking at putting some type of animals back into the park for a zoo captive area. But again, it won't be the exotics. It'll probably be more or less farm animals or miniature farm animals, more than likely.
All right.
I was thinking we'd probably get that done this year, but you know me, I'm a dreamer. I think that's a song, isn't it, by the Monkees?
No, it's John Lennon, you blockhead. They may say, well, I'm a believer.
Yeah,
I'm a believer.
Yeah, there you go.
That's for 12-year-old girls.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's the way I came up. Yeah.
They may say I'm a dreamer.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'm not the only one.
Yeah, we just lost everybody that was paying attention. But anyway.
Well, as long as you were talking, people were glued to their radios.
I hope so.
Let me put my ear to the radio and glue it on there with super glue because Minky's on the air.
Yeah. Well, so there is some continuing discussion. I mean, the Granger cabin is a little.
Oh, there's a
difficult to get to.
discussion going on.
A little bit.
I
more
love
discussion.
meetings. Non-productive meetings are my favorite.
Yeah,
thing.
well,
I know. Let's have a meeting.
That's the answer to everything.
Then we can put down on our day planner that we had a meeting in case anybody wants to account us.
Yeah,
hold us accountable for our time.
I had like 3 meetings yesterday. But anyway, the discussion is to get across the creek there. I don't know if that's Soldier Creek, I assume, but that's considered a meandering stream, which is basically, it's longer than if you take it as a crow flies, it's longer than as a crow flies. So that's considered a meandering stream. And they want to be able to drive vehicles across that. As they had in the past, it's been kind of blocked off for the last, long time. I don't think you've been able to drive across there for some time, but it's a discussion. The Rotary wants to open it up and allow people to drive back to the Granger Park. I'm not sure they have the support of the Parks and Rec Board. We'll find out, I guess, in next month at the next meeting that they have when they make the final decision, then kick it back to council. But that seems to be, I think everybody was very happy with ISG's plans for the park. They've made some pretty interesting drawings and some conceptual things. I haven't seen a whole lot of numbers thrown around as far as what this is going to cost, but like everything, it's probably going to be more money than some people want to spend. But again, this is part of our ongoing plans for the park and making it more accessible and cleaning it up and make it more user friendly. So
user friendly.
Yep. So that's going to be done. And they did. Michael Payne was appointed the new chairman of the Parks and Rec after we finished up our discussion on Sam Crawford. And
I see him a lot.
Yeah. So I don't know if he did that enthusiastically. They kept trying to put Campbell in charge, but he,
Who, Mark?
Mark. Yeah, he's on the board. He wasn't there for the meeting, though. I'm surprised they didn't vote him in. That's usually what happens. Welcome to your new job.
I wonder why Mark wants to be on the Parks and Rec board.
Well, I don't know. He was appointed by Matt. You could ask Matt that tomorrow. He's been on there for some time, so he's been an integral part. Not as long as Steve Daniel was on there for 26 years. So he's wrapping up now. The 1st of July will be his end. I guess this is his last meeting. So
this is Steve?
Yeah, Steve. So he's out of the picture now, but
Steve's
still
a good guy.
Yep. And they put Josh Calvert on, and Larry Calvert was on the board for probably 24 years or more. So Josh is stepping up and coming on in place of Steve Daniel.
Well, it all works, doesn't it?
Yep, it all works. Fireworks, as you know, are coming up. I've been hearing a few of them out there booming around. The city put their post up, kind of reminding people. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, you can shoot them from 5 to 10. And then July 4th, you can go 5 to 11. There's been a lot of responses on the Facebook page. And Amanda, that does our city responses, has been pretty busy, trying to keep people on the straight and narrow with the fireworks. This is a compromise, and we're hoping that everybody pays attention. You can't shoot them in the street, can't shoot them in the parking. You can shoot them in your yard. And again, respect your neighbors, and hopefully nobody gets hurt in the process. And we hope we have nobody really does anything stupid. If they do, police are out there and they're going to get you. So, and it's not cheap. I heard that. $500 if they catch you the first time, $750 for your second violation. So it's an expensive adventure if you get caught. So be careful, please. Let's see. What else you want? Did you see the video?
What else do I want to talk about? I have just been sitting here amazed that people are just transfixed by your voice coming out of their radios going, my God, the man's a genius.
Yeah. Yeah.
Continue.
So anyway, did you see the video on Chief Porter? He got called in his Windows help yesterday? Or the day
I did not see that.
Oh,
It's on the Fort Dodge Police Facebook.
Yeah. Some scammer called him up. And,
some scammer called him up?
Scammer, and they recorded Chief Porter. He was playing stupid, trying to get the person to keep talking.
Yeah.
A real thick English accent of some kind. And he was trying to get him basically to open up his computer to allow the scammer to get into his computer to play with the programming, I guess. As a side note, I've had 3 different emails and faxes in the last 2 months telling me that relatives of mine have died. It's really been sad.
Yeah.
A couple of them had one by the name of Alan from Canada, and then Don, D-O-N-N, which is my middle name. He passed away up in Canada too. Both of them left $26 million without an apparent family member left. So I was the next in line. All I had to do was contact this lawyer, if you want to call him that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had one yesterday from Alvin, who apparently has been living in Europe for the last 25 years, and he passed away in a ghastly car accident.
I'm
Terrible.
sorry.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. But he left $26 million. So,
whoa.
Yeah, the person that has it, they want like 50%, and then they'll give us 40%, and then 10% has to go to a charity. So at least we're taking care of the charities. So we're trying to decide, the family is trying to decide first off who's going to be dumb enough to actually respond, and second off what we're going to do with all the money. So I think it's going to be a win-win situation for everybody. Because if I get that much money, you know what I'm going to do with it?
What are you going to do with it, Jerry? Tell us,
I'm going to
please.
fix our streets.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you're going to retire to Arizona.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think you were talking about that.
I was, I was thinking about it. I have such terrible allergies. I don't know if I can live in Iowa anymore. I this is my home, but it's just getting to be ridiculous.
I have a funny feeling you probably drive through Colorado on the way to Arizona and probably get stuck there for a few months.
No, I go over to Kansas and head straight south to New Mexico. Well, actually, I hook through Oklahoma and eastern Texas, and then I head over through New Mexico.
You've got it all planned out.
I do. It's flat ground. Colorado's beautiful, but you drive those big vehicles, and I've driven some pretty big vehicles in mountains. It can be a trick to keep them from going 95 miles an hour down a hill
and sideways.
Right. And there's not much you can do to stop.
You don't
them.
need that big of a vehicle. It's just you.
It was just me.
Yeah,
if you got me going there, is it?
You could probably
What,
just
a
get
slam.
by. You could probably get by just with a VW Beetle or something.
Think so?
Yep, close to the ground. Just throw a backpack in. You'd be great.
That makes no sense.
Yep.
But all right.
Okay. So, did want to remind everybody that the the lunch on the square is coming up next.
Oh,
on the
lunch on the green.
Yeah. Well, they call it the square. It's not really green. I guess it could be green in places. That'll be coming up on the 28th from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, 524 Central at City Square. Cost is $6. Pulled pork sandwiches, potato salad, chips, dessert, and water. And Mike Zahn is going to be doing the entertainment. So invite you down there. That's part of the Main Street
What's
program.
the coach doing? I mean, what sort of entertainment is he bringing?
He's a singer, songwriter, storyteller, I guess.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know it either. I don't know the gentleman personally, but I'm sure it will be entertaining and enlightening.
I'm sure.
Yep. And that's going to be on the 28th. So if you get a chance, and they will, if you pre-order their lunch, they'll deliver it to your office for if you have 5 or more people. So that's a pretty good deal. I think you just call the Main Street people, get hold of Chris down there, and she'll take care of you.
She will.
Yep.
I'll call her then.
They'll also do it July. You got to order
Chris,
5.
Mickey said you'd take care of me.
You got to order 5 of them though. You want 5 sandwiches?
I don't know. I can probably order from work, couldn't I?
Yeah, you could order for everybody here. You could be a nice guy that day.
I'll never get that then.
Yeah. Your new boss will be here pretty soon. That'd be a way to impress him. feed
Yeah,
him.
you know, my age, I'm always interested in impressing a man half my age.
Yeah, you should be. Especially the guy that controls your future. Yeah.
Terry, you're the same age I am.
Yeah, I know it.
Is that really relevant? What are you talking about?
I know it. Just trying to make you feel good.
Yeah, I know. Well, you've done it. Thank you.
So anyway, yeah. And I got a text message from my sister yesterday. I'm going to go into the break.
Is she the one that always puts you up to these things? She's
Yep.
the one that
she's
got you going with the backpack buddies.
Yeah, she's a retired principal, but I got a flag from Olson Metalworks down in Sheridan for her. He's Shane Olson. If you don't have a chance to, he's a great guy. He's a retired military and does a lot of custom metal work down in Sheridan. He's got his own shop down there, but she got a custom flag for her husband's shop. And she got picked up, the speed camera in Sioux City nailed her. 61 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone, $100 fine. Sent her 3 pictures of her car. It's just,
Well, the good thing is she lives in South Dakota, though.
South
right?
Dakota.
Well, South Dakota doesn't.
No, that's not true.
They don't.
No,
they do recognize them
yeah,
now.
That's what I thought too. Is that you could get out of it by being from South
I
Dakota.
was so proud of South Dakota.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you have in South Dakota one of the all-time great politicians ever in Bill Janklow.
Yeah.
He was governor of the state. He's deceased now.
Yeah.
But Russell Means, an Indian activist, apparently had committed a crime in South Dakota. But before he could be prosecuted fully, he left for California. Once he was in California, then Governor Moonbeam Jerry Brown gave him asylum. So Bill Janklow, in retaliation, gave convicted felons in South Dakota a choice. They could go to prison in South Dakota or move to California and never come back. I loved him. He was the greatest guy ever. Dr. Terry Beck is our guest. We'll be back.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right. I'm a Janklow man. Too bad he's dead. Huge bummer. But he gave us that, and he gave us Dr. Terry Menke both. So we're doing good. Hasn't rained for a few hours. That's working. Has anybody seen summer? Has anybody seen it? Seems to be missing. It'd be great if we had some here. All right. We got the market report coming up and the weather at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and, of course, more Menke. And in the next hour, Menke's just the opening act. Congressman Steve King will be on the air with us. That's right, the King Man himself at AM 1400 KVFD.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for the station so we can go wherever you want us to.
Need cash fast? WeFixMoney.com can help you get up to $2,500 with free same-day funding on business days. That's right. Submit your information at WeFixMoney.com in the morning and you could see the cash by 5 p.m. At WeFixMoney.com, we know that emergency cash needs can't wait. So our lenders work 24/7. Visit us now at WeFixMoney.com. That's WeFixMoney.com. See website for details. Terms and conditions may apply.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 2:35. First of all, let's check the weather. Again, I'm looking for summer, but it hasn't poked its head out in quite a long time. I hope it will. I hope it will, as a matter of fact. Cloudy today with a high of 71. Right now it's 68 degrees. Overnight it'll be cloudy, then gradually becoming partly cloudy. Don't you love that? I'm sorry, my screen just refreshed. It's 73 degrees. Patchy fog overnight, mostly cloudy, gradually becoming more clear with a low of 56. Wow, they changed the whole forecast. Tomorrow, some showers, then a chance of showers and thunderstorms after 4 p.m. Friday, again, pretty much the same thing with a high of 75 degrees. Saturday, a slight chance of rain with a high of 82. On Sunday, a chance of rain again, mostly cloudy with a high of 80. On Monday, sunny with a high of 80. And on Tuesday, sunny with a high of 83. But it has been one wet week. 73 degrees and partly cloudy right now in Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Rocky LaValle of Iowa Falls has passed away at the age of 93. His services will be June 25th at Bethany Lutheran Church in Iowa Falls. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. 237, 73 degrees with a look at the closing market report at AM 1400 KVFD. Here's Dwayne Merlin.
Here's looking how the markets closed on Wednesday. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting. Soybeans for July down 10 1/4 at 903 1/4. August beans down 10 3/4 at 909 1/2. November beans down 11 1/2 at 928 3/4. Bean meal for July down 5.10 a ton at 316.90. July bean oil up 4 points at 28.37. July core down 8 3/4 at 441. September core down 9 1/4 at 446 1/4. December core down 9 3/4 at 453 1/4. July Chicago wheat down 9 1/4 at 522 1/4. July Kansas City winter wheat down 7 3/4 at 457 1/2. Meantime, looking over at livestock, August feeder cattle down 72 at 136.52. September down 60 at 137. October feeders down 27 at 137.42. June live cattle down 95 at 108.50. August down $1 at 104.55. October live cattle down 95 at 106.10. And the hog trade July up 15
and set today's prices, no matter when our services are needed. Pre-planning your funeral is one of the most thoughtful things you can do for your family. Call us for details. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
What if you had your own personal recruiter to help you find a better job? And they would say, hey, I found a company that likes your profile and may even pay you more. Well, if you had a personal recruiter, that's what they'd do. But now, ZipRecruiter's technology can do that for you. Just download the free ZipRecruiter job search app, customize your job matches, and its technology does the work. It hustles for you to find jobs you'll like and puts your profile in front of employers who may be looking for someone just like you. If a company likes your profile, ZipRecruiter lets you know. And if you are interested, you can apply. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated job search app. And based on a third-party survey, 7 out of 10 people who found a new job on ZipRecruiter increased their salaries. So download the free ZipRecruiter app today and put the power of technology to work for you.
Results of a 2017 U.S. survey of over 500 ZipRecruiter users who got hired for a job they found on ZipRecruiter.
Even in my own home, I had my own designated space to smoke. If I think about it, it really was like I was punishing myself. A friend of mine said, why wouldn't you just try the Juul? And so I went out and I bought one. The idea of going back to smoking, I couldn't even imagine doing that. I don't think anyone, including myself, thought that I could switch.
Carolyn made the switch October 2016. Make the switch at JUUL.com. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Yeah, we're going to tell the truth. Make it matter. And we're never going to be boring. Once again, Congressman Steve King will be calling in from Washington, D.C. in the next hour, starting at 3:10. So really, Terry's the warm-up act. I know that he grates at that. I mean, he thinks that King should be the warm-up act for him, but that's what's happening today. So sorry, Terry.
No,
I'll try to get King out in front of you next time.
Not a problem.
Are you sure?
Yep.
You're not going to be bitter about this, are you?
Representative King's been very good to Fort Dodge.
He has
Continues
been.
to work hard for us, and despite his little problems that he's had, I think he continues to be a very effective leader for the Fort Dodge region. So,
Right. Well, I tell you, I called Randy Feenstra, but he said he was too busy.
I bet he was.
He said he was fundraising this afternoon.
Yeah, well, I've never met him. I don't know him.
I like him. He's a decent guy. He's more of a conventional Republican, keep your hands off my money, you liberals, and you damn liberals, and slink back under your rock where you came from. And
yeah, well, again, it's a tough place for anybody but a Republican to win. I think,
the 4th District,
whoever comes out.
Yeah, J.D. Scholten was in here a while ago. And
yeah, I met him once. He came with Bowser or whatever his name was.
Yeah, I know.
And Bernie.
He says all the right things, As far as liberals are concerned, they swoon.
Yeah.
Oh, God, JD, oh, well, you're all good with this. You're not sure about being white and on and on and on. And
Speaking about baseball players, I see the Gypsum Miners are out and about town. They were over painting the Habitat for Humanity building, doing some cleanup. I saw a couple of them out shopping the other night. Seemed to be nice young men. Ann Myers got a couple living with her.
Yes, I talked to them on the air last week.
Yeah.
A couple of them are from Australia, I believe.
Oh, they talk funny?
No.
Oh.
You talk funny,
Yeah,
but you're from South Dakota.
Yeah.
South Dakota.
I was with some
The ones who really talk funny are from North Dakota.
North Dakota. Yeah.
And they have that big car store out there on the highway.
Fargo.
Fargo.
I love Fargo.
I love Fargo. Fargo, North Dakota.
No, the movie.
I do too.
Yeah, that's a funny show.
The Johnson family sat and wrapped attention. Oh, they talk like us there. North Dakota.
I shouldn't be picking on the Johnson family.
I'm not picking on the Johnson family. They're outstanding corporate citizens and good people all the way around. But they are from North Dakota.
Time for me to trade my truck, so I got to be careful. I don't want.
Is it?
Yeah.
Again? Yeah. I saw the Macho Tacoma out front.
Yeah. But every
silver with decals. Yeah,
3
Terry,
years.
I'm a macho.
Yep. I'm trying to decide what I want to do, but we'll work on that. Yeah.
About what?
Well,
Your
trying
truck?
I'm trying to decide if I want a bigger truck.
I think you do.
I haul a lot of stuff. I hate to give up the gas mileage.
What do you mean you haul stuff? What kind of stuff are you
benches
hauling?
and trees and shovels.
What?
Yeah, I work for a living. I don't sit around.
Oh,
and talk on
give
the
me a
radio.
break. I don't sit around and talk on the radio.
So anyway,
That's right. I ask pertinent and deeply thought out questions like, is it clear here or there?
Yeah, a lot of the road work is, continuing. The fire station, I've been watching them. They got the steel hung this week. They're over there hanging, trying to get some of the roofing done. I suppose anticipating the weather moving in, but the fire station's coming along nicely.
Yeah.
Fifth Avenue South is coming along nicely. They've been pouring concrete over there. I think Smitty's is over there doing some of the brickwork and landscaping. The pillars will be there sometime this week, I think. So a lot of that work's going to be done. 8th Avenue South, they're continuing to work. They're doing a lot of renovation down there. And of course, we hired Rash last week to do more work down in the south part of town too. So a lot of work, a lot of construction work, and we're hoping to get that wrapped up before the weather changes. But the weather we have isn't really conducive to construction right now. It's a little muddy out there in places. So, but everything's going well. Getting a lot of pushback on everything being torn up, but I don't apologize for orange cones. I love orange cones. I like to see people.
Who asked you to apologize for orange cone?
There was a comment made to me one day that, it's nice you're doing all the work, but do you have to do it all at once? And the answer is yes, we do.
All right.
And we're trying to get caught up. So I'm sure you saw the Fort Dodge city government page today. They did post the funding breakdown for the city. There's been a lot of discussion. Every time we do something, they say fix our roads. Well, the money for roads comes from two different funds, and basically that's all the money comes from those two funds. We don't have extra money from different utilities or anything that we put into roads. But remember, every time we do utility work, we have to put a new road on top of it. So it's kind of a mixed bag of everything. And it's kind of surprising to me, the road use tax, which you think would go to road construction, very little of that actually goes to road work. It goes to some street repair, but your snow removal, the forestry department, and engineering fees come out of that fund, and that's the fund from the state for the gas tax. And the license plate fees. The problem we're having with the road use tax is that as cars get more efficient, the use of gas is dropping a little bit, more electric cars on the roads. So the actual road use tax money is decreasing on a fairly regular basis. So I think the state is looking, or has looked at different alternative ways to get some funding out of the electric cars, because they are not, this sounds terrible, but they're not contributing to the damage and use of the roads that they utilize.
So to hell with them, right?
Yeah, well, that's the way it is. I mean, they're taking advantage of a infrastructure, but they're not paying for it. So I think they're probably going to figure out a way to tap into that, maybe put some kind of a surcharge on a license plate or something to kind of balance that out. So,
every time I hear infrastructure now, I think of Denny Plouts. I don't know why. It's just, there it is. Dennis Plouts and Poised for Growth and Infrastructure.
Yeah.
They're all the same to me.
Perfect in collaboration.
How did I forget that?
We were collaborating in the hallway last night. After a meeting.
Who was collaborating in the hallway?
Well, Chris Patrick and Dennis and myself and
you were
Terry
collaborating.
Kuiper. We were collaborating, yeah, because Dennis got locked out of his office. So.
Somebody was lacking some collaboration there, weren't they?
Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, so the local option sales tax, which again, every time you buy something, we get a 1% sales tax back towards street repair improvements and some utility work. The use of that tax is primarily driven by the success of our economy. The local option sales tax was flat, I think, last year from the year before, but we lost a lot of retail over the last couple of years. And again, as retail continues to improve, as we get more businesses, which hopefully is going to happen, I don't have anything to announce. I don't know anything that's coming, but we do have people out there kind of sniffing around. So hopefully one of these days you're going to see some additional work being done. The Sears project, again, we're waiting for some additional information as far as what they're going to do over there, as far as the demolition and reconstruction of that acreage on the south part of the mall area. I think that's going to progress. There's one business that's already indicated that they're going to show up there, but the other problem is that there's a lot of ground there that we don't know what they're going to do with. So I think the city has kind of asked them for some guidelines as far as what they have intended for that additional property, rather than just kind of piecemealing it. We want to see a total site plan. So we're hoping that retail is going to continue to grow. Part of my meetings yesterday was with the Main Street Group. Michael Wagler from the state was here yesterday talking to, they did a walkthrough downtown, and then they did a couple of seminars with the city people and some of their main committee people. And then we had the Main Street meeting last night, which Michael gave some updates. Basically, what's happening downtown is there's a lot of different projects going on. You see a lot of reconstruction of the facade program, which is a combination of kind of a partnership between a grant program and also the local business owners to kind of clean up, fix up, paint the windows, and do some upkeep on the facades. They're are going to be some additional funding sources available, competitive grant type things for construction, bricks and mortar. And they're also looking at additional, I guess, small businesses moving into downtown. But I think the goal of Main Street is to have people consider coming downtown, not necessarily looking in the mall area, but also consider downtown as an option, because I think the continual growth of downtown is, it's going to be a good idea. We're really overbuilt downtown. We have a lot of big empty buildings.
So the solution to downtown renovation is to start bulldozing buildings?
No. Well, when we bought the one that we're going to knock down over by City Hall, the roof fell in on that a couple weeks ago. But, other than that, no, the answer is to renovate what we have and to fill the storefronts. There's some, we need to make it more appealing downtown. I think we changed the lighting down there recently. They came in and changed the LED lighting. They took the halogen lights out, so it's a lot brighter down there. But some of the storefronts need some updates. It'd be nice to have people walking the sidewalks, looking, in windows. And I told them, I said, just put a train set in a window and people will stop and watch the train go around. Just little things like that to keep people. The parking situation is never ending. We discussed that a little bit yesterday. It's going to be a problem for the rest of our lives. People either like the meters, they don't like the meters, they don't want to walk, they want to, it's just, it's going to be a challenge for us. As downtown continues to grow, we're going to have to address parking probably on a fairly regular basis. But
and how shall you address parking after you ran our furniture store?
Yeah, I disagree with that. It was brought up yesterday that somebody ought to take a Fitbit and go out to Walmart and figure out how far you walk from your car to what you get in Walmart and walk back out to your car and then do the same thing downtown and see what you get.
Let's go to the phones. AM 1400 KVFD. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Terry Menke.
I'm on the air with the Truth Doctor, the Doctor of Truth.
All right.
Dodge, Iowa.
Big Ed from Georgia. You are the man. Big Ed, I'm going to tell you what, I have Congressman Steve King on the air with me for the whole hour. Next hour. Are you in Iowa? Are you in Georgia? Where are you?
I'm in Rutland, Iowa.
Rutland, Iowa. Can you call me back at 10 minutes after 4?
Yes, I can.
And I will
do me a favor and give Steve King my best. I love that guy. I met him at the Iowa Freedom Summit.
All right. Do that, and we'll discuss his magnificence.
Okay.
Thank you, Big Ed from Georgia.
410.
All right.
410. It's a shotgun, isn't it?
Yeah, he knows. That's Big Ed from Georgia, my man. Yeah. He knows Nevin, too. He thinks better of Nevin Mulholland than you do.
No, I didn't say that.
I didn't say that. You just heard me say it. I didn't say it.
I ran into Big Ed shopping one morning.
Did you run into Big?
Yeah, he had a red hat on, something about, making
MAGA.
Great again.
MAGA hat. Yeah, he's got those all the time.
Yeah, and he was talking to the checkout lady, and I said,
he's got a distinctive voice, doesn't he?
I said, I know who that is.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of things happening downtown, and I guess the big thing is that
there's a lot of things happening.
Yep, we want to be a positive voice for change. That was the message that I took out. So you want to,
Terry? I go downtown walking regularly. I'm the only one there.
Yeah, well, that's what we need: more businesses, more reasons for people to be down there. More shops, more economic development. And we talked about that at one of the meetings I was at is, what does downtown lack that we really need? And there's two things that I said. One is men's clothing stores. We don't really have other than Foley's. We lost Yonkers, we lost Penny's, we lost our men's clothing store.
Boy, it's a different world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Boy, I hate that. I shopped at Penny's 40 years.
Yep. And look at, even shoes, men's shoes. We used to have a big shoe store downtown. We don't have any shoe stores downtown.
Well, I do my best to support Craig out there at Brown Shoe
Craig. Yep.
And I try to see John over at the men's clothing store there. It's the last men's clothing store in Fort Dodge. I used to love to go to Brown's men's clothing store when it was downtown.
Yep.
Charles A. Brown. And that was a classy place. They even had a place out at the mall called the Men's Club. But I used to love men's clothing store. You go in there and you smelled, I don't know, like men.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It always smelled vaguely of English leather of some kind, Maybe that was the salespeople in there.
Yeah.
In fact, a guy I was in high school with, he had a sister, And his dad worked at a men's clothing store named Zender's in Algona, Iowa, and supported the family.
Wow. Yep.
He wasn't the owner of the clothing store. He worked there as a salesperson for many years.
Must have done a good job.
He must have.
Yep.
But that,
But again,
that was 50 years ago now. But
and the question I ask is, what did we lose not to be able to support something like that? I mean, we used to be a regional. When I moved here 40 some odd years ago, I mean, Fort Dodge was the place you come and shop.
Yeah,
and
well,
we've kind of lost that edge. I mean, when people say where can I go to shop, and you got Walmart and Target and Kohl's and Marshalls, we don't have destination shopping that we used to have.
And now Walmart's in a life and death struggle with Amazon.
Yeah.
But you have to remember the surrounding counties. First of all, I heard these statistics are dated. Calhoun County and Pocahontas County have a larger percentage of people over 65 than any place in the world. A larger percentage of the population in those two counties, over 65, is the largest of anywhere in the world. So those folks are definitely old, and they don't need to come to Fort Dodge anymore quite as much to buy things. Like I remember farmers used to rush to Fort Dodge to buy school clothes and all kinds of things. They don't do that anymore.
No.
Secondly, the population of my where I grew up in Kossuth County, Algona, Iowa. When I graduated from high school 50 years ago, there were a little over 30,000 people in Kossuth County. Now there's just a little under 12,000. That is a 2/3 decrease in 50 years.
Yep.
So Fort Dodge and the regional shopping centers aren't doing, and then you throw Amazon in the mix.
Yeah, who I saw didn't pay any income tax
on 11.8 billion in profit.
Yeah. But anyway, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, we would like to get some kind of a large workforce business in downtown Fort Dodge. I mean, it would be nice if we could fill the trolley center up again. You could do that. I would like to see the development of a public market somewhere in Fort Dodge, and have year-round fresh vegetables available, possibly growing them even in a greenhouse. Have specialty shops in there, small shops that, individuals could run. There's all kinds of potential, but the problem is that you really can't find anybody to take the risk anymore. Everybody is, afraid. But we actually have a couple of people in Chicago today talking about the enterprise zone, which opportunity zone it is. In downtown Fort Dodge was declared an opportunity zone. You can roll over your capital gains into a tax deferment status. Again, I don't know a lot about that. Vicki and Chad and Matt Brown are the ones that kind of head that up, but there's a lot of opportunities that we're creating for businesses to come to the downtown area. And as the riverfront develops and we get more people to downtown to, participate in activities, I think downtown has got a great future in front of it. But, right now we're just a little bit overextended. We're a little bit bigger than we need to be. We need to fix up some of the streets and some of the sidewalks and get some storefronts there that people actually want to come down. So when you're downtown walking, you're not by yourself. You're actually trying to find a way to stay on the sidewalks. There's so many people there, but it's going to be a while before that happens. But I think we can turn the town around. We're hoping that it continues to grow downtown. There's been a lot of small businesses that have come downtown, but again, most of them are, unfortunately not for the guys like you and I are.
We're guys.
We're guys. We're tough. One thing I did want to bring up, Jim Winter is retiring from Harlan Rogers, and they're going to have a little farewell ceremony for him on the 24th, Monday at City Council Chambers from 2:30 to 4:30. Jim has touched a lot of lives in town, working out at Harlan for, I think, ever since it started. Has done a lot of work out there over the years, and we're going to miss Jim. We kind of had to rearrange some personnel to kind of cover his retirement. I don't think he's going to go away completely. I think he's still going to be around, but it would be nice if, if you would stop by and say goodbye to Jim next Monday at 2:30 to 4:30. Probably don't have to stay for 2 hours if you don't want to.
I thought it was mandatory.
No, you'll be on the air, so you'll be too busy anyway.
They don't understand very much. Can I take off, to go to this?
Well, play Misty for me.
That's
Clint
right.
Eastwood. Just all you do is just put it on
Misty
tape
for me.
You remember that?
Yeah,
You
he
just
certainly
put it-
do.
Just pile on
Clint
the tape.
Eastwood is a disc jockey.
Yeah.
Who was living this lavish lifestyle.
Yeah, get off
and
my
his
lawn.
and his on-air persona was terrible. He was Clint Eastwood with
Yeah.
a smile. And now I can't do it. Anyway, it was Clint Eastwood was a disc jockey introducing jazz records. He's a big jazz guy. Did you know that about Clint
Didn't know
Eastwood?
that. Oh.
Big jazz guy. You know, there's a famous woman who interviewed him and got hot for him. Do you know who that was?
No.
All right. Think about it. Famous woman. No.
Hillary Clinton. Barbara Streisand.
See, you just will not cooperate. Famous woman interviewer. Take a shot.
Oh, Barbara Walters.
That's right, Barbara Walters.
I get
Clint flirted with her, and she got so flustered she demanded that the camera be shut off because she was getting turned on. That's a frightful thing to have Barbara Walters turned on.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All right, Terry Minke has been our guest. Thank you, Terry.
No problem.
3:00 in the afternoon. Congressman Steve King coming up.
It's everything digital on the Kim Komando Show every Saturday from 11 to 2 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Cutting coal regulations. I'm Rich Dennison, Fox News. Lawmakers are reacting to the Trump administration's rollback of Obama-era regulations on coal-fired power plants. Fox's Jared Halpern's live on Capitol Hill.
The Environmental Protection Agency is giving states more leeway to set requirements on efficiency upgrades for coal plants, a significant rollback to rules put in place by the Obama administration. EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler says coal-fired power plants are essential to the power grid, and Americans want reliable energy they can afford. Top Democrats in Congress, like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, called a rule change a giveaway to polluters.
It's a huge step backward in the decade-long effort to protect our planet and the Earth's precious resources.
The Trump administration is also considering rolling back vehicle mileage standards put in place during the previous administration as well. Rich.
Jared, the House has approved a bill which includes automatic renewal of the Hyde Amendment, which bars the use of federal money for abortions. The Trump administration urging illegal immigrants to come out of the shadows ahead of a planned mass deportation.
Many of the details are under wraps, but acting ICE Director Mark Morgan told Fox and Friends a roundup will primarily focus on people who have ignored orders of removal.
If you've received due process, there should be consequences, including families.
Morgan is urging illegal immigrants to come to ICE, saying they'll be given 30 days to get their affairs in order before they're deported.
I don't want to come to your door. I don't want to come to your home. I don't want to come to your workplace.
Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris calls the threatened arrest deeply reprehensible.
Fox's Rachel Sutherland in Washington. Stocks ending higher today amid news the Fed isn't lowering its benchmark interest rate now, but hints future cuts are possible. The Dow gaining 39 points, the S&P 9 points higher, with the NASDAQ up 33. This is Fox News.
All right, welcome to F-150 Radio. Call from Georgia. Chad, what's shaking in Macon?
I know the F-150 kicks butt and takes names.
Like how the high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy F-150 thrashes the competition with best-in-class towing and torque?
Not surprised. Totally saw that coming.
Chad, how do you know so much about F-150 beating the competition?
I drive the competition. Got a 10-year lease.
Kind of embarrassing, huh?
Maybe I shouldn't advertise that fact on a national talk radio show.
Good call. The Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar.
Best-in-class claims with properly configured vehicles. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds. GVWR based on Ford segmentation.
Now get a 2019 F-150 with 0% financing for 72 months, only at your Ford dealer. Not all buyers will qualify for Ford credit financing. 0% APR financing for 72 months at $13.89 per month per thousand finance, regardless of down payment. Program number 21040 on 2019 Ford F-150. Not available on Raptor. Residency restrictions apply. Take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stock by 7/1/19. See dealer for qualifications and complete details.
Iraqi intelligence officer says 40 workers for the energy giant ExxonMobil have been evacuated from an oil drilling site in southern Iraq after they came under rocket fire. The officer says security reinforcements have been deployed to the site after a rocket hit before dawn today near the location of the Iraqi workers, wounding 3. A 12-year-old Georgia girl arrested yesterday after 2 teen boys were shot.
Police in East Birmingham say it appears a 12-year-old girl was playing with a gun when it discharged near a playground, hitting 2 teen boys, both hospitalized, one serious, the other critical. Birmingham Police Chief Patrick Smith calling it a hard lesson for kids and guns, telling parents to keep guns locked up and out of the reach of children. No word if any adults will face charges. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
The United Nations Refugee Agency says a record 71 million people have now been displaced worldwide from war, persecution, and other violence. That's an increase of more than 2 million from last year. A Kentucky pizza delivery driver is being hailed as a hero.
Police in Lexington Tuesday honoring Mark Bude for saving 2 young girls from an apparently abusive father. Bude had delivered a pizza to a Lexington motel room. When the door opened, he saw a man and a child naked on the bed behind him. After leaving, Bude called police. They responded and found 2 young girls hiding in the room. Suspecting abuse, police arrested the man who turned out to be the girl's father. He was later charged with several offenses. Jack Callahan, Fox News.
San Francisco is getting closer to being the first U.S. city to ban e-cigarettes. City supervisors have unanimously approved a ban on the sale and distribution of vaping products. The supervisors say the measures are aimed at cracking down on the number of young people who use e-cigarettes in the city. I'm Rich Dennison, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news from the newsroom. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting for Bob Fisher. Democratic Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer of Dubuque is sponsoring legislation aimed at increasing pay for rural doctors.
Iowa doctors have been shortchanged by a government formula that underestimates the cost of labor and practice expenses.
Doctors in rural areas are paid far less for the care they provide elderly Medicare patients. The formula is meant to account for cost of living differences, but Iowa doctors say it's not covering all their expenses.
And for 2 decades, our healthcare providers have asked for an accurate formula, one that allows them to stay open and keep serving their patients.
Dr. Brian Privet, the president-elect of the Iowa Medical Society, joined Finkenauer at a Cedar Rapids hospital to discuss the issue.
Without immediate action, Iowa will fall further behind in the competition to recruit the next generation of physicians, and our seniors will face greater difficulty in accessing necessary medical care.
According to Finkenauer, Iowa doctors have the 7th lowest Medicare reimbursement rate in the country. An Iowa health coach accused of defrauding dozens of people who lost more than $6.5 million by investing in a gym program has taken a plea deal. U.S. District Court records say 49-year-old Mark Blanketspore pleaded guilty Friday to 1 count of wire fraud. Prosecutors dropped 23 more counts in return for his plea. His sentencing is scheduled for October 24th. Prosecutors say Blanketspore told investors from at least May 2013 through this past January that the medically oriented program would be licensed to fitness clinics nationwide and that investors could earn a 40% return on their money. But prosecutors say Blanketspore instead used the money for himself and to pay other investors. An author from Central Iowa is releasing a new book that focuses on the successes and stumbles of some of the region's most well-known figures. Aaron Putsey of Ankeny says his nonfiction book, You Are Destined for Greatness, is a compilation of lessons learned by those who have excelled in business, sports, academia, finance, retail, and elected office.
It's a book of inspiration and empowerment, stories that have been shared with me over the last few years by 27 notable and influential people, many with Midwest and Iowa roots.
The list includes former University of Iowa football star Chuck Long and his coach Hayden Fry, Ambassador and former Governor Terry Branstad, and Randy Edeker, Chairman and CEO of Hy-Vee. Putsey says his book zeroes in on how our attitudes and the choices we make impact everything we attempt and achieve.
We can all use a little bit more inspiration and aspiration in how we go about living our lives, especially during a time where there just seems to be a constant stream of negative news and negative information. We can all use our battery charge now and then.
Putsey says books sold through his website, putseyinc.com, will benefit the youth organization Junior Achievement. Transportation officials say Interstate 29 in northwest Missouri and southwest Iowa has been reopened as floodwaters recede. The interstate has been closed since May 29th because of flooding and flood-related damage. Reports say that traffic will be restricted to 1 lane in some stretches between St. Joseph and Interstate 80 in Iowa. Transportation officials warn travelers to plan ahead for gas or restroom breaks because several exits along the interstate from St. Joseph to US 34 in Glenwood, Iowa remain partially or completely closed. Iowans who have lost loved ones to pancreatic cancer are preparing for a trip to Washington, D.C. next week, and they're taking along a sort of secret weapon in the quest for more federal funds. Amy Jardin, who chairs the Cedar Falls affiliate of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, says an Iowa survivor of the nation's deadliest form of cancer will be joining their ranks.
On Tuesday, we go to Capitol Hill and we meet with our senators and our representative and their office staff members to explain why we're passionate about pancreatic cancer, why we need more funding, and that we're there to ask for money.
The additional funding is needed for further research and to raise awareness about a type of cancer for which the vague symptoms are often ignored.
I'm optimistic that we'll get the same as what we asked for last year, but whether or not we would have the increase of funding that we ask for each year is always up in the air.
Jordan's mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2012 and died 13 days later. Typically, 70% of those who are diagnosed die within a year. The 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer is only 9%, which is why having a survivor as part of the 17-member Iowa delegation to Washington is so rare.
Congress members and their staff, they hear our stories and about our loved ones that we've lost. But when they are faced with a pancreatic cancer survivor, it is amazing what happens, magic that happens in the room.
Statistics find about 580 Iowans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year, and 430 of them will die from it. It's the third leading cause of cancer death in the United States and is expected to become the second leading cause of cancer death by 2020. Jordan says it will be a privilege to lobby alongside someone who's beaten all the odds.
They get a lot of respect, and they have the person with the Congress member's office has a lot of questions for a survivor. Because it is so unusual to meet with an actual survivor of pancreatic cancer.
The survival rate is slowly rising thanks to better treatments and more awareness. One goal is to double the survival rate within the next few years, which advocates say is possible through more research, clinical initiatives, patient services, and advocacy year-round. Symptoms can be vague, ranging from abdominal pain to back pain, changes in stool, yellowing skin, weight loss, appetite loss, and a feeling of being full after only eating a little food. Thursday is National Call Congress Day, where people are asked to urge their elected officials to make cancer research a national priority. You can learn more at pancan.org/call Congress. From the newsroom, I'm Jesse Stewart reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. High temperatures reach up to 75 this afternoon under cloudy skies, northeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows of aloft around 56. Tonight, partly cloudy. Mainly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, chance for isolated storms, high of 77. Upper 70s. Friday, low 80s by Saturday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 75.
The Orange Tag sale is going on now at the General Store. Come in and take 50% off everything with an Orange Tag. This is the perfect time to shop for summer. From shorts, sandals, and tanks to skirts, dress shirts, and capris, the General Store has something for everyone. Look for the Orange Tag and save 50% right now. And remember, everything at the General Store is tax-free, and all proceeds go toward helping people in our community. Hurry in now and save 50% on everything with an Orange Tag at the General Store, 12 North 25th. Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
All right, this is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. We've been talking today about having Congressman Steve King on the air, and after some confusion going back and forth, we do in fact have the Congressman on the air. How are you, Congressman King?
I'm doing just fine, Mike. I appreciate you asking. I trust you are well.
Oh, I am. I've never been better. I want to send best wishes from Councilman Terry Minke and Big Ed from Georgia, who is currently in Rutland. They're both fans of yours.
Well, that's great. Pass my greetings back to them, and I'm sorry I'm not in Rutland today. I had some good experiences there.
I know you're the only one I've ever heard say that. I got to tell you. Anyway, Congressman Steve King is on the air. I wish we could take calls, but we can't. So we're gonna kick it off here. You know, of course, President Trump was in our state just a short time ago, and he made several stops. And it was reported in some news media that your office had called President Trump to ask if you could fly back to Iowa on Air Force One with President Trump. Apparently, Congresswoman Cindy Axne asked the same question, and she was refused. And it was reported that the Trump campaign people refused your request to fly back to Iowa on Air Force One as well, which I thought was a little curious since it's customary, especially if we have Congress people of the same party as the president, and the president is making a campaign stop in Iowa. It's certainly in our tradition to allow that congressman to fly back to Iowa or any other state. Did this happen, or was this poorly reported, or what happened here?
Well, the accuracy of that is pretty close to what I believe is objectively right, Mike. And yet, you know, I just think about this. That was Tuesday morning, June 12th. And so when I got up that morning, my biggest problem was I didn't have a seat on Air Force One. Was there anybody in America out of 300 plus million that had a lesser problem than that?
Well, yes, sir. But we're not United States congressmen. That seemed to be an unnecessary slap by the Trump campaign. And I'm gonna have to indulge myself here, Congressman King. President Trump depended on you here in Iowa, and Governor Reynolds, dare I say, and I would say this with accuracy, would not be governor today if the 4th district hadn't come through for her and you were her co-chair, campaign chair. Now these people seem to have turned their back on you, which I think says a lot for them, and that should not be forgotten.
Well, and Mike, you're right. It shouldn't be forgotten. And, furthermore, it was Governor Reynolds, Kim Reynolds, that I nominated for lieutenant governor at the state convention when there was another candidate they were pushing very hard, and that was awfully close. If I hadn't done that, I don't think she would have ever been lieutenant governor, and of course, then never governor. But here's what they're lacking. My highly positioned Republican, recently successful Republicans in the state, they're lacking the kind of discernment to even want to know what's true. They're simply deciding that if the New York Times prints something, then they're going to react to it as if it is true. And that calls into question every decision that they make. Do they really drill down to the bottom of things? Are they dealing with facts? Or are they just deciding that they're going to make a political decision off of things that, I mean, and I know, and anybody that's ever read my fact check document knows that the New York Times misquoted me, yet they're reacting to it as if it were gospel.
Well, it questions their integrity, quite frankly. This probably doesn't bother Governor Reynolds at all, but I haven't had her on the air since. If you're going to stand with somebody, if you're going to depend on somebody, as she did with you, the least you can do is stand with your friend when the going gets tough on the other side. Don't pose, don't drop out. That's not the way we do things in Iowa or the United States of America, as far as I'm concerned. Have you talked to the Trump campaign about this obvious disrespect?
Well, my staff has, and it was a staff request. It wasn't mine personally, but it was a request made by my staff, and they have contacted the White House, and we've had conversations in there. There was to be a White House summer picnic tomorrow afternoon, and that we had things set up to complete the conversation then. But it looks like it's delayed for at least a day because of weather.
All right. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. We're on the air with Congressman Steve King. We've been pulling our hair out here in Iowa, sir, especially in the congressional fourth, as you know, over the trade status, the trade situation. I thought I've said many, many times here in the last 7 months that the USMCA thing was done, or it was going to be done within a very short period of time. It's still dangling out there. Are we going to get this done?
Well, I do think we get it done, Mike, but I drilled down into the dates of this, and one thing that didn't happen was we needed the White House to file the draft document more quickly than they did. And it took them some time to get that draft document done. It has been filed, and it has to sit and, ripen for 30 days, 30 calendar days before Congress. That comes due on July 8th. And then if the administration and the Trump administration would file their final document, and that the earliest they could do that is July 9th. Then the calendar starts to tick on 60 legislative days. I had gotten some misinformation on that. In the past, I'd said 90. It's 60 legislative days. If they file on July 9th, the earliest possible date, then the earliest possible deadline for an up or down vote, no amendments, is December 3rd. Nancy Pelosi could pick it up on January 10th, and we could debate and pass the legislation, but I think she'll drag it out into December.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. The Democrats are in a full war to separate Donald Trump from Midwestern farmers and working people. I don't think they're going to get it done. The Democrats are being so transparent. We could solve the border crisis, and I want to move into this with you. I want your opinion on this. If the Democrats would come to the table and work with President Trump and the Republicans, we could get something done with this border crisis. They are callously and cruelly, I believe, letting these people dangle down there on the border because they think it is scoring political points for them. They think it's making President Trump look bad. It's disgusting, frankly. Could we get this border crisis worked out with a little cooperation from Nancy Pelosi or not?
Well, yes, but probably nobody's satisfaction would be the trouble. But you're right on what's going on down there, and they are doing their best to make Donald Trump look bad. But the calculus for them isn't just make him look bad. It isn't just try to defeat him in the upcoming election. In addition, it is every person that comes across that border illegally that gets to stay for even the duration of the census gets counted, and congressional seats are apportioned accordingly by illegals, illegal citizens. It's irrelevant. That's irrelevant to the redistricting. Human beings is the standard, and so we have. This is by a report two censuses ago that there are at least six congressional districts in California that are theoretically represented, filled by all illegals. And so if California cast 6 more electoral votes than they would have, accordingly, I think that number is more than twice that many. I think it's more than a dozen congressional seats in California are representing illegals in California. But in any case, pick a number, say 10, and we get into a close presidential race, and then as those electoral votes are cast from California, all going one direction, that means that the president gets all the electoral votes in California. There might be 10 more than there needs to be if we didn't count illegals. And so I've introduced the legislation that requires that we count legals or legal citizens only, not even legal lawful permanent residents, because I think citizens should be represented in Congress, not immigrants, legal or illegal. I think it needs to be citizens. That's the people we let vote. So let's count them for redistricting. Meanwhile, California in particular is exploiting these open borders for, I will call them, very, very cynical, politically motivated agenda. And that's one of the reasons they're keeping those borders open and fighting to keep them open. It's gone beyond logic here about 15 years ago.
Oh, yes, it did. And by the way, some of the biggest cities in California are suffering terribly because they have large camps of illegals in 10 cities, essentially, who have all sorts of medieval diseases. They have no employment. They have no adequate sanitation in some of these places. It's disgusting what's happening out there. And this white, wealthy elite that makes up the Democratic Party in California and across the country are acting as if it doesn't exist. It's an outrage. It's an outrage for the illegals. It's an outrage for our country. Mike, you can go on the internet and find the map of all of the human feces on the streets of San Francisco. I mean, when I saw that, it was stunning to me. It was like looking at a map of the murders in Chicago. It's similar in its look, and you can blow that up and see where it is. The sanitation is awful. We introduced a bill here a week ago today. I brought Diamond and Silk into Washington, D.C., and wrote a bill for those two gals, and they're so much fun. And we spent probably a year and a half working on things together. And this was their request, but I had already passed the sanctuary city legislation last Congress. And so we adapted it to some of their requests, and I actually named it the Diamond and Silk Bill. But what it does is it says no sanctuary jurisdictions. And if you're going to have a policy or exercise anything that is a policy, then the federal dollars will stop coming to your political subdivision. And those dollars that stop coming there will be redirected to American homeless and especially America's homeless veterans. Well, once again, the people who are coming over the border aren't wealthy and educated. They're dirt poor and poorly educated for most in most cases. Let me just quote a couple of statistics that are staggering. A quarter of the population of California lives below the poverty line. If you see 4 people in California, one of them is living below the poverty line. Another fifth is categorized as near the poverty level. That's a lot of poor people living below the poverty line. But don't think
Mike,
it can happen here. The killer of that poor young girl down in the Iowa City area was living in a trailer, and he had almost no freedom.
Well, and also, Mike, I know that we've talked about that, but if you hire somebody that was supposedly is an American citizen or illegal in the United States, and he says his name is John Budd, born in Mexico.
Right.
I don't think there ever was a John Budd born in Mexico.
Probably not.
And you're not suspicious of someone like that? He speaks no English, but he's got an English name, born in Mexico, supposedly. And we've hired a lot of people over the years, but I'm confident in saying that we have never hired an illegal alien in King Construction in 43 plus years of work. Because, you can say we follow all the laws, we jump through all the hoops, we follow all the paperwork, but that doesn't mean that you are exercising the intent of the law and attempting to make sure that your workforce is entirely legal. Now, we'll hire legal immigrants and green card holders, but they're going to be lawfully present and legal to work in America. And if they're an illegal alien, you cannot really determine that just by looking at their paperwork. You've got to ask some questions. Now, if you're going to work with somebody, you're going to get to know them. You better. So that's when you ask those questions and you find out what's their origins, who's their family, and you cannot hide that indefinitely. I guarantee it.
Well, Governor Reynolds has refused to endorse E-Verify in Iowa as well. She could do it. She could snap her fingers and we'd have E-Verify. That would cut back on a lot of our problems. She refuses. And her reason to refuse is weak at best. Weak at best.
What is it? I didn't know this.
Didn't you know this? Oh, yes. Governor Reynolds, I had her on the air, and she refused to support E-Verify. I was staggered. This was after the killing, too. Her reason was, I think the federal government should be in charge of that or some nonsense like that. But no, she has refused to support E-Verify in the state of Iowa.
We've got multiple states that have endorsed E-Verify.
Oh, multiple states by and the governor of each individual state has the authority to sign an order, and it happens. Kim Reynolds won't do it.
I'm going to have to write her a letter. I missed that somehow, Mike, and I should have known that.
Well,
I've been going another notch up on this. Yes, every state that cares, that doesn't want to be a sanctuary state, or we've got sanctuary jurisdictions scattered around Iowa too. But it should be E-Verify mandatory, and we can also. I've got legislation that's called the New IDEA Act, and the acronym IDEA (IDEA) stands for the Illegal Deduction Elimination Act. What it does is it clarifies that wages and benefits paid to illegals are not deductible for federal income tax purposes, and it gives the employer safe harbor if they use E-Verify. But if employees that cannot be verified during a normal audit, the IRS will say, sorry, you paid $1 million out in wages to illegal aliens here, but it's not a business expense for you because they're illegal. And so it comes back out of the Schedule C, goes back into the gross receipts, shows up as net income, and that becomes taxable interest and penalty. And when we did the math on this back then, and the ratio would be pretty close to the same, that a $10 an illegal becomes a $16 an hour illegal, and you have a 6-year statute of limitations, so that if you had them on the payroll for that long, you can build up a pretty good sized liability to the IRS. And that puts the right incentives in place. And by the way, we also require the Social Security Administration, the IRS, and Homeland Security to build a cooperative committee to work with the focus and the intent of enforcing immigration law in America.
Well, Congressman King, anytime you need to know what's happening in Governor Reynolds' office, you call me, okay? I'm right here.
Yeah, you're on top of this, Mike. That's a divine message.
All right, it's 3:29. Congressman Steve King is on the air. We'll be back in 8 minutes. Please give us a call back, sir.
I will do.
All right, thank you, sir. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
I should have thought so. I should have thought that already. I got a lot of things going for me, but I don't have very much going for me. I got a lot of things that are working against me. I'm a white person, older, hardworking. You know, I should get out of the way of these woke people who insist they know everything, including how to dye their hair multiple colors and put all kinds of, I don't know, safety pins in their face. I agree. I have many flaws compared to their perfection. All right. We're going to do the weather, closing markets, a little healthy living from Brownfield. Then we'll have Congressman Steve King back with us at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Baby.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about, and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. We're a full-service funeral home with an off-site crematory. At Bruce's, we specialize in pre-arrangements and family support before, during, and after the service. We also offer beautiful memorial items to help you remember your loved one forever. Bruce Funeral Home is proud to be by your side every step of the way throughout the funeral process. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge.
Baseball and hot dogs, they go together like front porches and rocking chairs. And with Village Hearth Buns, you don't have to go to your local ballpark to enjoy a really good hot dog. Just grill up a package of quality Franks and serve with your favorite toppings on a Village Hearth bun. They're the same delicious buns served at baseball stadiums throughout the Midwest. Village Hearth Buns, baking our best for you.
Here's looking how the markets closed on Wednesday. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting. Soybeans for July down 10 1/4 at 903 1/4. August beans down 10 3/4 at 909 1/2. November beans down 11 1/2 at 928 3/4. Bean meal for July down 5.10 a ton at 316.90. July bean oil up 4 points at 28.37. July core down 8 3/4 at 441. September core down 9 1/4 at 446 1/4. December core down 9 3/4 at 453 1/4. July Chicago wheat down 9 1/4 at 522 1/4. July Kansas City winter wheat down 7 3/4 at 457 1/2. Meantime, looking over at livestock, August feeder cattle down 72 at 136.52. September down 60 at 137. October feeders down 27 at 137.42. June live cattle down 95 at 108.50. August down $1 at 104.55. October live cattle down 95 at 106.10. And the hog trade, July up 15 at 81.62. August hogs up 130 at 83 even. October hogs up 85 at 77.45. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting.
The health message of eating more fruits and vegetables doesn't seem to be getting across. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. The Alliance for Food and Farming is looking at the reasons why and is also looking at the benefits of eating fruits and vegetables in pregnancy. Professor Carl Keene with UC Davis says availability and cost are some of the reasons, but the other question is, are consumers being scared away from fruits and vegetables from claims that they are riddled with pesticides? The Environmental Working Group's so-called Dirty Dozen Fruits and Vegetables never looks at the actual levels of pesticides nor the actual risk. Keene says the science doesn't add up.
We really have a wealth of data on the health benefits, but we have no real clear evidence that pesticide residues are posing a risk in the American marketplace.
Dr. Keene says there's overwhelming evidence that eating fruits and vegetables is good for health and in prevention of disease. In pregnancy, he says there are benefits for health of mothers and babies.
We need more studies. Every scientist always loves to say we need more studies, but consumers need to know the science. Actually, overwhelmingly supports only one position. Next slide. And that's that fruits and vegetables are good for you, and that eating an abundant variety at all stages of your life has a lot more positives than when most people appreciate. And I think that is underscored for pregnant women who are looking to reduce as much as they can the risk for pregnancy complications.
I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Hurry in and find a great deal at the Ram Big Finish event.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba, please be done. Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Good morning, Uglyville! Every ugly doll is unique.
I'm Moxie.
Bobo.
Wait.
Those close to me call me Slick Dog.
Which is not his name.
And every child is too.
He can be pretty lovable.
That's why when you travel, you should make sure your child is in the right seat for their age and size.
That sounds pretty great to me.
Keep them safe by visiting NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Isn't that right, gibberish cat?
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. High temperatures reach up to 75 this afternoon under cloudy skies, northeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows of aloft around 56. Tonight, partly cloudy. Mainly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, chance for isolated storms, high of 77. Upper 70s Friday, low 80s by Saturday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 75.
As the nation's leader in pork production and pork exports, Iowa's pork producers are doing things right. It's their ethical and moral responsibility. Hog farmers keep their pigs safe and healthy, safeguard natural resources, protect public health, and build strong communities every day. Pork quality, responsible production, and continuous improvement are roles they take very seriously. Iowa's pork producers, producing safe, affordable food. Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
The Webster County pork producers remind you when it comes to protecting their family's health, Iowa's pig farmers are some of the most concerned people around. Safe, affordable, delicious, and nutritious pork can be served for your dinner tonight. Roasted, grilled, stewed, sauteed, stir-fried, broiled, kebabbed, sauced, dipped, sandwiched in your new recipes and your old recipes. Why not buy some pork today and serve it up tonight? This message brought to you by the Webster County pork producers, striving to serve people, pigs, and the planet.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. If you don't listen to this radio station, you suck, for crying out loud. Not sucking today is Congressman Steve King. How are you, sir?
Just fine, Mike. Good to be with you today.
No, it's great to be with you as always, sir. Congressman Steve King is with us, and sorry we can't take calls today. Otherwise, I'd ask for calls. If any of you have a question for Congressman King, which I'm sure that you do, because the world is kind of a crazy place, especially now. What is going on in? I've been bringing up subjects with you most of the time here, so I want to ask you, what is going on in Washington D.C. that we need to know about that affects our lives here in Iowa?
Well, one of the things I was thinking about was that I didn't really complete this when you asked the question about whether I had a ride on Air Force One that day on June 12th. But it worked out this way that we have a constituent from Spencer named J.C. Hermstad, and her identical twin sister died of an aggressive form of ALS 8 years ago. And so then JC was diagnosed with the same affliction on St. Patrick's Day, and so February this year. We did a fundraiser for her up in Spencer, and it turned out really well. But the prognosis for that, of course, we know that no one has ever survived an ALS, a legitimate ALS diagnosis. So, but they had produced a treatment for her that was unique to her DNA from some tissue from her sister, her identical twin sister. And that medication was all but prepared for her. And she was losing ground fairly quickly. And the FDA said, well, we can clear this thing for her by September or October. And that, of course, was not nearly soon enough. So I went to work on this, And I kept pushing and kept pushing. Every time I pushed, that date got closer and closer to the here and now and the soon. And then finally, I introduced a private bill for J.C. Hermstad, and we needed to bring it to the floor for unanimous consent request to move it quickly. And I went in, believe this, Mike, I worked with Nancy Pelosi several times on this.
My God, I'm shocked.
And she was helpful, and I'm very thankful and grateful that she was. And we were prepared to bring that bill to the floor, I believe a week ago Friday, on unanimous consent. And we had been pushing hard at FDA. And finally, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, said, we're going to waive these testing requirements that we believe we have to do and allow her to have her first treatment, her second treatment, her third treatment. And so with the help of Speaker Pelosi, and that was kind of where if they would have brought the bill otherwise, so they were very helpful. We were able to I went up to Spencer, went to J.C. Hermstad's home, and for the first time in my life, I walked in there and I said, we have gotten the government completely out of your way. And when I said that, I burst out laughing because, I've never gotten to say that before. And so JC has now received her first treatment, and that was on June 12th. So the very day that, I had the least of all problems, no seat on the Air Force One, the very best of all things was taking place, which was a treatment which gives her a chance at life for an aggressive form of ALS. And so far, so good. And Jace is just a delight to be with and to be around. And we pray that she has a long life and that she can be saved from this death sentence, which has always been that for ALS.
That's an inspiring story. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. We're talking with Congressman Steve King today. I mean, since you and Nancy Pelosi work so well together and you got things done together, perhaps it's time for you to switch to the Democratic Party. Your own party's not treating you very well. So is it...
Mike, I'm laughing, but I probably shouldn't be because there's some rationale in your proposal.
Oh, absolutely. Kevin McCarthy is keeping you from committee assignments, and he looks to me like another California weenie. So are you getting any committee assignments back, or what's happening?
Well, some of the things are working here. We've not given up by any means. And it's always reset the strategy and go back at it again. But here's one of those pieces of the strategy, Mike. This misquote in the New York Times, that's the only place I was misquoted. I stood before the House of Representatives with probably over 400 members in their seats, which isn't very often the case, and looked them in the eye. And I said, if any of those words came out of my mouth, here's how it would have been delivered given what I believe. And I said, there will be a pause between the two odious ideologies and Western civilization, which I strongly support and advocate for. And so I delivered that. And when I delivered it, so that they're distinct thoughts, that the mistakes that were made by the New York Times, the misquotes of the New York Times, I made sure that I accentuated the difference. And the Congressional Record misquoted me anyway, exactly the same way that the New York Times did. And so we put in a request to correct the misquote, and they say, oh, well, we get around to that at the end of this Congress. So in a couple of years, we will fix that for you. That's not good enough. I want to accelerate that. I want to get it done. I want to force a vote on the correction of the Congressional Record. When and if that happens, that will also say, you know what, the New York Times did the same thing that the Congressional Record did. Misquoted Steve King, and you people have all hyperventilated over nothing. And by the way, many of those folks, and that includes our governor, have my cell number. If they wanted to know the truth, all they had to do was call me. They didn't do that. And, if the shoe had been on the other foot, there's no way that I would have come out and disparaged them without
I know that.
Understand what the truth is.
Well, that's and I don't expect Governor Reynolds to be manly, but that's just not the way we do things. I mean, Governor Reynolds beat Fred Hubbell by 3 percentage points, and more than that came out of the Congressional 4th District, and you were her campaign co-chair. If not for you, Kim Reynolds is back wherever she's from trying to get her old job as county auditor back, and we have Governor Hubbell, and that's the truth. So let's not forget this the next time Kim Reynolds comes to town. I'm not advocating we do as liberals do and show up at Steve King rallies or any political rallies or information meetings at all and start barking, as you were treated quite rudely, by the way, the last time you were here in our town. You've had kind of a tough time here in Fort Dodge. I mean, someone.
Well, Mike, that happens to be true in those circumstances that you're referring to, and those that people understand you're referring to, including the guy with the water response.
Yeah, the water thing. Yeah.
But I want to make sure that people in the Fort Dodge area and all around Webster County know that those things do not reflect the character and the quality of the people in Webster County. You have terrific leadership in that city, and they have good long-term plans, and they are very good at putting the pieces of that together. And I get great vibes all across that county. There's just a couple of exceptions that pop up along the way. And one of them is that individual that came in and assaulted me with a huge glass of water that day, sneaking up behind me. And as the officer said, that could have been anything. It could have been acid. It
could have been anything.
It could have been bleach. It could have been anything. And so we need to put a marker down. And I'm pretty confident that there's going to be the federal charges are going to be applied for assaulting a member of Congress. And I'm not the only one. Matt Gaetz from Florida was also assaulted in a similar fashion. So we've got to cut this thing off so it doesn't become an epidemic. But I want to make sure that the people in Fort Dodge know how much I appreciate them. I took my wife back to the same place, Mineral City, to have dinner one evening, and it was on the evening of the wake for Kenny Rash, a great friend. Just to put the marker down, we like those folks over there and all the way around the city.
By the way, just in regard to your earlier comments on multiculturalism and the firm belief of our brethren on the left that all cultures are equal, just recently, a mother in Pakistan burned her 17-year-old daughter to death for marrying a man that she liked rather than her mother liked. That was the punishment. And by the way, the mother was within her rights, apparently. That's just awful. That's right.
When I get criticized for saying all cultures don't contribute equally,
that's right. They don't.
You made the point for me, Mike. Obviously, and that's what your intent was. But how could anyone believe that all cultures are equal? That that a continent that in sub-Saharan Africa there's one-story buildings, but not 2, 3, 4, 100-story buildings, and that doesn't mean that those folks can't be contributing to our civilization. It just means that civilization did not keep up with the rest of them in the world. Who sent the man on the moon? It was the United States of America, the flagship of Western civilization. Science, technology, knowledge base, this thirst for knowledge, the thirst for accomplishment. That's what does it. And so you look around the world. Why do we have them categorized as first, second, and third world? It identifies the cultures in each of those categories. We're importing third world people, and we're posing as if third world people perform at a first world level in the first generation. They're unlikely to do that, but in the second and third generation, they've got a real shot at it if they embrace the American civilization.
I tell you, I'm warming to the idea of Congressman Steve King as a Democrat. I think you should announce that you are switching to the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party in Iowa would then lose control of their bodily functions. You mentioned earlier there's a map where we can find piles of feces all over California. Man, we could make a map here in Iowa in a minute, especially Polk County. Whoa! That would happen big time.
That is an interesting thought, and it's really a colorful way to describe that, Mike.
Well, depend on me for deep thinking, Congressman King.
And here's how this works: is that I think in a way it's good for me to have those relationships on the other side of the aisle, and we can do some things we don't disagree on. I know that Debbie Wasserman Schultz and I have had some pretty intense debates over the years, and I recall one where we were with CNN, Wolf Blitzer in between the two of us, and he said, why don't you two go decide what you can agree on, and then present that to the Congress and the rest of the country. If you two can agree, everybody can agree, and we'll move on. And so I grabbed the answer to that ahead of the lady who would probably have had deference. I know she did at Wolf Blitzer's platform. And I said, that's not our function. Our function is to articulate our competing beliefs. Debbie Wasserman Schultz will articulate those beliefs and those bullet points, those talking points, as well as anybody. That's why she has the job she has. And my job is to speak the ideological truth. That's how I spun it. And what we do is once we have these debates in front of the public, then the rest of the country gets to decide. The people that can actually change their positions can listen to each one of us and decide which way they want to go, to the right or to the left. And, I think that on my side of the aisle, we do utter those timeless truths. We're anchored to full spectrum constitutional Christian conservatism, the Constitution, free enterprise, and the rule of law. And Debbie, she argues something entirely different. And yet we're not enemies. We're in a way, we're kind of an odd couple sort of friends.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Steny Hoyer and a few other Democrats, high-profile Democrats, have not signed on to Medicare for All. They have not even agreed to try to lower drug prices. And the reason is they take a lot of money from who? The pharmaceutical industry. So before the holier-than-thou Democratic Party starts taking shots at the corporate-controlled Republican Party, let's remember little things like this, okay? That we have high-profile Democrats who aren't going to say a word about the pharmaceutical industry because they get plenty of money from the pharmaceutical industry. And by the way, go back and check who were the big contributors to Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. It wasn't a lot of union guys, I'll tell you that. It was, and I think that Donald Trump should release his tax returns the moment she tells us what she said in her speeches to Wall Street. Of all the hypocrites on earth, Hillary Clinton irks me the most. She just does.
Well, Mike, I don't take issue with that in that standpoint. I just look more at what she did with BleachBit and destroying those 33,000 emails and the clear violations of our Anti-Espionage Act that are there, and to see how far they reach to try to get Donald Trump under similar charges when there was no basis for it, and the Mueller report it comes up empty with regard to those things, and yet now we have an attorney general that's turning this thing back around, and he's starting to drill into what happened with Hillary Clinton. And I said at least 2.5 years ago, I made the point that what is going on here with the surveillance of an opposing, or let's say a presidential candidate's campaign, and his transition team into right before the inauguration and after the inauguration, it is what went on is worse than Watergate. And I know that I got hammered politically and publicly for that, but I stand on that statement even more than I would have before, because it's clear to see what happened. I mean, we have Christopher Steele, that was an MI6 operative that went over there and put together the dossier from Russian informants who are, I guess I'll say they're not particularly identified, but none of it little of it could be verified or documented. And then they used that to go into the surveillance of the entire Trump campaign and the Trump transition team and the Trump presidency. And to think that they were spying on a presidential candidate in his campaign and a president-elect in his transition team, and then the inaugurated president of the United States. And all of that supposedly is innocent, while they accused him of being in collusion with the Russians. And also while Barack Obama had that meeting with Medvedev when he said, tell Putin that after I'm reelected, I'll be able to have more flexibility.
Yeah.
So,
I love that too. I love that too. We're running out of time. I got to address the Democratic Party's move to socialism with you. The younger Democrats, especially, who tell us that they're not liberals, they're progressives. I don't know what happened to liberals. Have you seen a liberal lately? Because I haven't seen anybody cop to being a liberal in a long time. They're all progressives now.
When I look at them, they all look like liberals to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
I don't ask them, what they have, what identity they have assumed on the way to the bathroom.
Well, you and I have a lot to make up for, Congressman King. We're old white guys. We're hardworking. I mean, geez, we ought to be exported. We ought to be deported for that. But anyway, the the move towards socialism, and it scares the hell out of Nancy Pelosi and some other really rich Democrats like Nancy Pelosi. But it scares Nancy Pelosi because her corporate money, her source of power, and don't kid yourself for a second, what Nancy Pelosi's got over all the Democrats is she controls the money, and billions of dollars, by the way. But that will vanish if the Democrats embrace socialism. To me, that's not a good enough reason to move socialism off the plate. But what is your reaction to the Democratic Party and their move towards socialism? By some, I should say.
Well, it's by a substantial sum of Democrats have moved in that direction in an open and an overt way. And to me, it's stunning to think that they would embrace socialism. That means that their constituents are embracing socialism. If I embrace socialism, I can tell you that about 75% of my constituents would turn against me, and about 10% would go, "Yeah, you finally got it right," and the rest of them would just not care. But this embracement of socialism, it grows from the Bernie Sanders campaign, is penetrated into it. I know when I first came to this town, and it's, I guess, close to 17 years ago, they told me Bernie Sanders is a socialist, and I don't believe that. I don't believe there is such a thing as an open and avowed and overt socialist. So in one of those late vote nights, it was about 1:30 in the morning, I went over and sat next to Bernie, and I just began to chat him up a little bit, and I finally asked him, I said, "Bernie, are you a socialist?" And he said straight out, "Yes, I am."
Yes, I am.
So they do believe in this ideology that has been disproven in every economy and every culture in America where it's been tried. And Venezuela is the worst example we have, and the most recent example we have right now. But Bernie believes that there's a collective property here, and that we should be tax the rich and hand to the poor, and somehow the zero-sum game of all of this turns out to be good for we the people. But of course, I reject that. And I've just finished speaking with a 4-H group of folks here that filled my office up, and these are young people, and they're really good kids. And they're and I said to them, that the socialism agenda that's here, what the vitality of the American civilization is rooted in free enterprise capitalism, which brings about the very best per capita gross domestic product that can be produced by humanity. And that's the difference. We will always outproduce the socialists because we give people an incentive to produce.
I'll tell you something, though, Congressman King. I will always be proud to shake Senator Bernie Sanders' hand for the reason you just gave. You asked him a straight question, and he gave you a straight answer. Period. End of story. Are you a socialist? Yes, I am. I cannot abide anybody who tries to be all things to all people. And Senator Sanders and you have that in common. How's that for a comparison?
He's an honest man.
Yes, he is.
That, and he's an entertaining individual. And when people are wrong, that doesn't mean we need to take it personally. We just need to understand the differences and debate the issues and let the chips fall where they may. That's what our founding fathers had in mind, Mike. And I have to go and debate an issue on the floor of the House. So I guess I'm going to let you wrap this thing up.
Okay, Congressman Steve King, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Glad to be with you. Thanks, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD.
What's in store for your business this week at Staples?
Direct mail that's on target.
Staples Direct Mail Service can help you design your direct mail and open the door to new customers.
Bring in your own mailing list, or we'll help you build one based on location or demographics. We can handle everything from prep to delivery.
And now, get 20% back in rewards on your color printing, direct mail, banners, presentations, and more.
Staples, there's a whole lot in store.
And 6/22/19 in-store only. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/20back for details.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 3:58. Big Ed from Georgia is going to be on the air with us in the next hour. Always look forward to Big Ed. This is kind of an old white male program I'm having today. Menke and I were on, and then Congressman King. Now, Big Ed from Georgia. We're going to rip it up, too, because I'm just having so much fun. I hope you are, too. This is a little bit of an old song that I used to listen to a lot this time of year. This is The Dead.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Questioning a Trump insider, I'm Rich Dennison, Fox News. A former White House insider testifying behind closed doors to a House panel today. Fox's Jared Halpern on Capitol Hill.
And President Trump asserted executive privilege over any questions former White House Communications Director Hope Hicks was asked about her time in the White House, though her work with President Trump predates the inauguration. She was also a member of the campaign team.
Hope Hicks is a building block in determining what our next steps are, whether or not this administration engaged in misconduct.
House Judiciary Committee Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee says lawmakers must also hear from Special Counsel Robert Mueller and former White House counsel Don McGahn. Hicks is now Executive Vice President and Chief Communications Officer for Fox Corporation. Rich.
Jared, the nation's top trade negotiator, says he'll meet with his Chinese counterpart before next week's G20 summit in Japan. President Trump says he plans extended talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping during the economic summit. The president has warned he'll increase the number of Chinese imports subject to tariffs if the two nations don't come to terms on a trade deal. Chinese officials saying today positive outcomes are possible in the trade negotiations, which broke down 6 weeks ago. U.S. stock indexes moved higher this afternoon after the Federal Reserve announced it would not cut its benchmark interest rate at this time, but is keeping the door open for future increases.
A divided Fed signaling there are no cuts coming for this year, but did hint they could cut rates in the months ahead if economic conditions weaken.
Fox's Hillary Barsky. The House has approved several spending bills for the next fiscal year. Included in that spending package is a measure which would automatically renew the Hyde Amendment. That amendment bars the use of federal funds for payment for abortions. Stocks ending the day higher today, all three indexes in the green after that Fed Reserve announcement. This is Fox News.
All right, welcome to F-150 Radio. Call from Georgia. Chad, what's shaking in Macon?
I know the F-150 kicks butt and takes names.
Like how the high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy F-150 thrashes the competition with best-in-class towing and torque?
Mm-hmm, not surprised. Totally saw that coming.
Chad, how do you know so much about F-150 beating the competition?
I drive the competition. Got a 10-year lease.
Kind of embarrassing, huh?
Maybe I shouldn't advertise that fact on a national talk radio show.
Good call. The Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar.
Best-in-class claims with properly configured vehicles. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds GVWR based on Ford segmentation.
Now get a 2019 F-150 with 0% financing for 72 months, only at your Ford dealer. Not all buyers will qualify for Ford credit financing. 0% APR financing for 72 months at $13.89 per month per thousand finance, regardless of down payment. Program number 21040 on 2019 Ford F-150. Not available on Raptor. Residency restrictions apply. Take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stock by 7/1/19. See dealer for qualifications and complete details.
Verdict in the case of a sex cult leader. Fox's Gernal Scott joins us live.
Rich Keith Raniere, leader of the NXIVM group, could face up to life in prison for his conviction on 7 counts, including sex trafficking, racketeering, and forced labor. Susan Dones, who says she was part of NXIVM for 9 years, said of the verdict,
"It was great. We couldn't have asked for anything better."
Mark Agnifilo, Raniere's attorney, says he was surprised by the swift decision, but understands why it happened.
Due to the strong feelings of everybody, including the jurors, there's a quicker verdict than some other cases. So I think that could be one explanation.
Raniere is set to be sentenced in September. His defense plans to appeal, Rich.
Gernal, a California utility, has agreed to pay $1 billion to 14 local governments to cover damages from a series of deadly wildfires caused by its downed power lines. That settlement is just part of the more than $30 billion in potential damages Pacific Gas and Electric is facing in lawsuits. A new United Nations report calling for possible sanctions against the Saudi Crown Prince.
The report finds credible evidence to warrant further investigation into Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This follows the killing of Washington Post columnist and Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The UN report states the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is responsible for the death. Khashoggi was an outspoken critic of the Crown Prince, but the kingdom continues to blame rogue Saudi agents for carrying out the journalist killing last October. Khashoggi was last seen alive entering a Saudi consulate in Turkey. The Trump administration has expressed doubt over whether the Crown Prince was involved. Tom Graham, Fox News.
Residents on an Arctic Norwegian island with 69 days of constant light in the summer say they want to go time-free and be more flexible with school and working hours, making the most of the long days. 350 people live on that island. I'm Rich Dennison, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Let's look at local news from the newsroom. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting for Bob Fisher. Democratic Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer of Dubuque is sponsoring legislation aimed at increasing pay for rural doctors.
Iowa doctors have been shortchanged by a government formula that underestimates the cost of labor and practice expenses.
Doctors in rural areas are paid far less for the care they provide elderly Medicare patients. The formula is meant to account for cost of living differences, but Iowa doctors say it's not covering all their expenses.
And for 2 decades, our healthcare providers have asked for an accurate formula, one that allows them to stay open and keep serving their patients.
Dr. Brian Privet, the president-elect of the Iowa Medical Society, joined Finkenauer at a Cedar Rapids hospital to discuss the issue.
Without immediate action, Iowa will fall further behind in the competition to recruit the next generation of physicians, and our seniors will face greater difficulty in accessing necessary medical care.
According to Finkenauer, Iowa doctors have the 7th lowest Medicare reimbursement rate in the country. An Iowa health coach accused of defrauding dozens of people who lost more than $6.5 million by investing in a gym program has taken a plea deal. U.S. District Court records say 49-year-old Mark Blanketspore pleaded guilty Friday to 1 count of wire fraud. Prosecutors dropped 23 more counts in return for his plea. His sentencing is scheduled for October 24th. Prosecutors say Blanketspore told investors from at least May 2013 through this past January that the medically oriented program would be licensed to fitness clinics nationwide and that investors could earn a 40% return on their money. But prosecutors say Blanketspore instead used the money for himself and to pay other investors. An author from Central Iowa is releasing a new book that focuses on the successes and stumbles of some of the region's most well-known figures. Aaron Putsey of Ankeny says his nonfiction book, You Are Destined for Greatness, is a compilation of lessons learned by those who have excelled at business, sports, academia, finance, retail, and elected office.
It's a book of inspiration and empowerment, stories that have been shared with me over the last few years by 27 notable and influential people, with many with Midwest and Iowa roots.
The list includes former University of Iowa football star Chuck Long and his coach Hayden Fry, Ambassador and former Governor Terry Branstad, and Randy Edeker, Chairman and CEO of Hy-Vee. Putsey says his book zeroes in on how our attitudes and the choices we make impact everything we attempt and achieve.
We can all use a little bit more inspiration and aspiration in how we go about living our lives, especially during a time where there just seems to be a constant stream of negative news and negative information. We can all use our battery charge now and then.
Putsey says books sold through his website, putseyinc.com, will benefit the youth organization Junior Achievement. Transportation officials say Interstate 29 in northwest Missouri and southwest Iowa has been reopened, flooding and flood-related damage. Reports say the traffic will be restricted to 1 lane in some stretch between St. Joseph and Interstate 80 in Iowa. Transportation officials warn travelers to plan ahead for gas or restroom breaks because several exits along the interstate from St. Joseph to US 34 in Glenwood, Iowa remain partially or completely closed. Iowans who have lost loved ones to pancreatic cancer are preparing for a trip to Washington, D.C. next week, and they're taking along a sort of secret weapon in the quest for more federal funds. Amy Jardin, who chairs the Cedar Falls affiliate of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, says an Iowa survivor of the nation's deadliest form of cancer will be joining their ranks.
On Tuesday, we go to Capitol Hill and we meet with our senators and our representative
and their office staff members to explain why we're passionate about pancreatic cancer, why we need more funding, and that we're there to ask for money.
The additional funding is needed for further research and to raise awareness about a type of cancer for which the vague symptoms are often ignored.
I'm optimistic that we'll get the same as what we asked for last year, but whether or not we would have the increase of funding that we ask for each year is always up in the air.
Jordan's mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2012 and died 13 days later. Typically, 70% of those who are diagnosed die within a year. A 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer is only 9%, which is why having a survivor as part of the 17-member Iowa delegation to Washington is so rare.
Congress members and their staff, they hear our stories and about our loved ones that we've lost. But when they are faced with a pancreatic cancer survivor, it is amazing what happens, magic that happens in the room.
Statistics find about 580 Iowans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year, and 430 of them will die from it. It's the third leading cause of cancer death in the United States and is expected to become the second leading cause of cancer death by 2020. Jordan says it will be a privilege to lobby alongside someone who's beaten all the odds.
They get a lot of respect, and they have the person with the Congress member's office has a lot of questions for a survivor. Because it is so unusual to meet with an actual survivor of pancreatic cancer.
The survival rate is slowly rising thanks to better treatments and more awareness. One goal is to double the survival rate within the next few years, which advocates say is possible through more research, clinical initiatives, patient services, and advocacy year-round. Symptoms can be vague, ranging from abdominal pain.
Hey, Ed.
Hello.
Hey, you hang on about a minute and a half. I'll be right with you.
Yes, sir.
Priority. You can learn more at pancan.org/call Congress. From the newsroom, I'm Jesse Stewart reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. High temperatures reach up to 75 this afternoon under cloudy skies, northeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows of aloft around 56. Tonight, partly cloudy. Mainly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, chance for isolated storms, high of 77. Upper 70s. Friday, low 80s by Saturday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 76.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right. That's what we have here at all times. 60 rounds of freedom, of course. And we have some of the greatest freedom-loving people in the country on this radio station. We just talked with Congressman Steve King, freedom lover. We now go to Big Ed from Georgia. How you doing, Ed?
Well, I'm hanging in there, buddy. I'm up here, beautiful Iowa. Couldn't wait to get on the Doctor of Truth show.
Thank you very much. I accept the label of Doctor of Truth, and I've worn it proudly, and I've given you full credit for the name. I appreciate it. Our friend Nevin Mulholland, the attorney who you've met, is struggling with it a little bit, but I think he will come around.
Well, he better come around because that's just the way it is. Tell it like it is, like Howard Cosell used to say.
You got to tell it like it is. You know, I'm going to run something by you that's going to sound a little funny, Ed. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
But I was talking with Congressman King about this just a few minutes ago. By the way, I sent him your regards, and he thanked you and sends his regards back. But I suggested that Congressman King, and he was talking about working well with Nancy Pelosi. I suggested to him, since he can't get a committee assignment or even a break from his own party, why doesn't he just become a Democrat? I mean, you want to talk about the Democrats losing their minds? Having Steve King join the Democratic Party would be one of the greatest things ever, as far as I'm concerned. What do you think?
Well, I'd have to agree with the truth, Doctor, because I think that he would be a force and a great guy to work with work on them Democrats and give them some common sense. They need some common sense. They need help.
Well, they're all on drugs, Ed. I don't think they ever got over the 60s. I was alive in the 60s, and so were you. And there was a segment of the population that was high all the time and seemed to be pretty proud of it. They were high and anti-war and anti-this and anti-that. Of course, they all graduated from college and got over that socialist thing. Now they're capitalists. But these are these folks are there. You know, these are the same folks. They've just gotten old. Nancy Pelosi, all these people, they've just gotten much older. But they haven't really changed much. They're still kind of out there in some sort of drug-induced fantasy land. I would suggest, I'm not suggesting that they're high right now, but it seems to be, yeah, those are the sort of people that we're dealing with still. They are. Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. They are privileged people. They are people who grew up without much of a care in the world, and they have again gotten through college, gotten a professional degree of some kind, and that apparently gives them the right to tell both the wealthy and the working people of the country how to live their lives, how to speak, talk, dress, or think. Now, that sounds more like a police state, kind of like China, than the United States of America. That's what bothers me about them. But I would think that Congressman King joining the party would be a good thing.
Well, I don't see where it could hurt anything. Somebody walking around and talking and everything with got common sense, and most people from Iowa do, for the most part. Iowa was always number one in education, and they were always looked up to as pretty smart people.
Well, I like to think we still are, but we're not number one in education anymore. I don't know what we're not number one in anymore, unless it's corn production, which is a good thing, by the way, to be number one in. But the Democrats held power down in Des Moines for a long, long time, and they started giving large rewards to their supporters without demanding. They were large awards that didn't require any additional effort on the recipient's part and wasn't particularly deserved. They were given these large cash payments primarily because they were supporters of the Democratic Party. End of story.
Buy their vote. That's what they were doing. They were buying their votes.
That's what they were doing. That's exactly what they were doing. And they want to do it again. They want to do it again. They want to motivate their base here in Iowa, and that's public employees, who the Republicans have straightened out quite a bit since the last election. They're just chafing at the bit to get back in power and boss the rest of us around and give money only to their select constituent groups. And really, in Iowa, they have a very narrow base, but because they spread that money around, it seems bigger. How do people are people in Iowa similar to people in Georgia, Ed?
Say that again.
Are people in Iowa similar to people in Georgia?
Oh, I don't know about that.
You don't know? There's are Georgia people? How are Georgia people different?
Well, I think Georgia has woke up. They've become more of a red state. Iowa's kind of bordering on Georgia's. The Democrats down there are trying to make Georgia blue, but a lot of people now are seeing what's going on with the Socialist Party, and they're not liking it. And I think it's going to be a rude awakening. I think Governor Kemp will do well in the next election, and I think that Georgia will do good in the election. You know, the House and the Senate both. I think they'll keep them all, and maybe some new ones, because people are not liking this new socialist party. AOC running things, and Omar and Tlaib saying what there are. They're really, really rude comments and out of this world comments. I think that, like you said, I think that Democrats have gone crazy.
Well, they have come up with a justification for hatred. They don't believe they hate, but they do. I mean, they'll tell you it's justifiable because of the time we live in. It's 2019. President Trump is in office, and they must fight. I want to tell you, these are spoiled brats screaming at their parents. That's really what it sounds like. Here we are, people 50s, 60s, even 70 years old, screaming their heads off. And really what they're doing is still screaming at their parents for making them go to Sunday school. It's just...
it's absurd.
It is absurd. It is absurd. They are no more entitled to a living than the rest of us are. If you want to live well, go out and work hard. That's the deal. Go out and work hard and come out here and compete. Don't hide.
Right. Exactly. I'm hoping that things are going to change, that people are going to see that the socialist movement is a disaster. And I wish to say that anyone that is listening to my voice in Iowa, please go to Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. Look it up. You will find out the way to destroy America. I'm telling everybody out there that don't hide. Get on the internet and find out what Saul Alinsky said. Run up the debt. Government, take care of control of your life. If you can't control your life, the government says, come on to the Democrats. We'll control it for you.
Oh, the Democrats are already doing that. I mean, let's make no mistake, a leftist thought is authoritarian. And I say that because the Democrats in their citadels, which would be the universities of our country, have already instituted speech control and thought control, and it's been in place for years. There was a young man just the other day, a Parkland survivor, the awful massacre down in Parkland, Florida, who was given a scholarship to Harvard. Now, that's big for a young person. And part of the reason he had the grades for it, that's for sure. But part of the reason Harvard gave him that scholarship because he was a survivor of the Parkland shooting. And of course, they want to highlight the fact that the Republicans protect gun rights. So it had a dual purpose. A video later emerged, a couple of videos later emerged on this young boy 18 years ago, where he is seen, 18 years old, where he is seen using racial slurs. Harvard immediately dropped the scholarship offer. And the reason is he used these words some years ago when he was a much younger kid. Now, that is nothing but legal enforcement of thought control in this country. If a young man is academically qualified and you want to make a statement to the Parkland survivors and you want to be merciful, if you want to understand that people do things when they're kids they later regret, I did, you did, everybody did, and we were given forgiveness almost immediately, then Harvard and the left in general looks cruel and vindictive, which is exactly what they are. And if they get into authority, if they take the presidency and the Senate, we're all in for a rough ride because they're going to sweep through this state and they're going to punish people. And you can take that to the bank.
Well, I do take that to the bank. You're absolutely true. The truth doctor's coming through for all Iowans out here in the heartland country, telling it like it is, hoping that he'll have more and more listeners all the time, that people will wake up. This is not the Democrat Party I remember in the 50s and 60s and 70s. It's gone so far radical that it's out of touch with American people that have common sense.
Well, I've said this many times. I remain a Democrat. I was a Democrat in the 60s and 70s. These other people who have taken control of the party apparatus, they're liberals. I have nothing in common with bourgeois liberalism at all. I don't respect them. I don't respect their authority. I don't respect their so-called accomplishments. I do not respect them at all, and I do not share their belief system, which I think is corrupt and depraved, frankly. I'm a Democrat. They're something else. They should be forced to call themselves something else. We're not the party we didn't used to be that was anti-worker, pro-globalism, and pro-thought and speech control. These are dangerous people. They are dangerous people to the very idea of freedom. If you listen to them and pay close attention, you will never hear them define freedom and why we should stand up for freedom. What does individual freedom mean to a liberal? Nothing. Because the state is the source of all good. And an educated elite must be put in charge of us all, whether we're wealthy or whether we're working class, because those are the folks who know, because they studied and thought and did great things in their minds. Not in the world, not in the real world, not in the private sector where there's competitiveness required, but in their little academies. So that gives them the right to show us a fist. And if you've been paying attention, they've been showing the rest of us a fist. Every time one of these presidential candidates or Democratic Party candidates opens his mouth or her mouth, it sounds like a threat. It sounds like a threat, and they mean it. They're very angry at us for electing Donald Trump, and we're going to pay, Ed. So I want everybody to remember that. Stop kidding around. Don't think these people are really your neighbors because they want to punish you.
Well, I agree with you, and I hope all your listeners are waking up and agreeing with you, because you are the doctor of truth, and you're telling it like it is, and you want to see America back where the people are in control, not the Democrats or the Republicans. The people are in control.
You think? We do have to take back control of our lives. Any decision that Congress and the legislature and the governor want enacted can be overruled by a Supreme Court in Iowa. Any action taken by the Congress, both houses of Congress, and the President of the United States can be overruled by a Supreme Court. That is not in the interest of freedom. The Supreme Court system is no longer serving the American people. They're serving their own interests. What they think is right, what they want to happen, the way they want the country to go. And they're, by the way, lawyers, and nobody ever elected them. But the bureaucracy still, the swamp that Trump has talked about, it's still in full force out there, Ed. And there's still,
yes, it is.
And I don't care what Strozik and the other characters, James Comey, who are in the FBI, say about President Trump diminishing our law enforcement institutions. They disgraced our law enforcement institutions. And it just came out because Trump was elected president. And that's the truth.
Well, what did you think about his night where he announced he's going to run for 2020?
Oh yeah, he's going to come out swinging. You bet. I mean,
I think, and I'm going to be on board, and I'm going to be I'll be coming up here to Iowa if I can, and doing everything I can to help the president win, because I honest to God believe the doctor of truth, that he has our back and that he cares about us. He doesn't have an agenda. He's got everything he needs, and I think he's fighting for us. And I think people are starting to see little by little that the Democrats are lying every day, liars, leakers, and liberals. That's what they do on the news. The media is our terrible enemy anymore. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. They don't tell you what they want to run your life. That's exactly what I see.
Oh, they do. Absolutely. This is an unusual time. This is an unusual time when the face of the Democratic Party and cultural liberalism is exposing itself to us. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. When they don't think they're getting their way, they get dangerous. Don't they, Ed? Because they do. They're dangerous right now. They're mad. The deplorables are in charge, and they want vengeance, and they're going to have it. I don't care. Joe Biden can mumble his assurances all he wants. They want vengeance. I mean, there are Democrats. If not for Nancy Pelosi, we'd be having an impeachment hearing, which, by the way, I'm in favor of. But Nancy Pelosi knows that would destroy the party. See, Nancy Pelosi is smarter, and I've come to appreciate this just in the last few months, and I ever gave her credit for it. She starts impeachment proceedings on what they have right now, and it'll take down the Democratic Party in 2020, and she knows it. You know, the people who don't know it? Her constituents, the Democrats themselves. I agree with that. It's a funny time. Ed, I'm going to take about a 8-minute news break. Can you call back?
I can.
Call back at 4:38, would you please?
I will.
All right.
I will. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed. That's Big Ed from Georgia. It's exactly 4:30.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at jmike1400.
Okay, I'm getting a little radical. I'm getting a little radical today, and it's so much fun. I'll tell you, what I need to do is listen to a little Grateful Dead and think of times long ago when we knew who the Democrats were. They were us. The Republicans were suits. It's all turned around now. I'm telling you. It's good to be alive in the USA today.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp would you hear my voice come through the music?
Hi, I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. When you're planning the memorialization of your loved one, you're telling their story and sharing special memories with your family and friends. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, we're proud to help you celebrate the life of your loved one, and we're here to guide you with your selections as we help you and your family say goodbye in a way that's right for you. Our staff is committed to compassionate care and attention to detail. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Need cash fast? WeFixMoney.com can help you get up to $2,500 with free same-day funding on business days. That's right. Submit your information at WeFixMoney.com in the morning, and you could see the cash by 5 p.m. At WeFixMoney.com, we know that emergency cash needs can't wait. So our lenders work 24/7. Visit us now at WeFixMoney.com. That's WeFixMoney.com. See website for details. Terms and conditions may apply.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news from the newsroom. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting for Bob Fisher. Democratic Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer of Dubuque is sponsoring legislation aimed at increasing pay for rural doctors.
Iowa doctors have been shortchanged by a government formula that underestimates the cost of labor and practice expenses.
Doctors in rural areas are paid far less for the care they provide elderly Medicare patients. The formula is meant to account for cost of living differences, but Iowa doctors say it's not covering all their expenses.
And for 2 decades, our healthcare providers have asked for an accurate formula, one that allows them to stay open and keep serving their patients.
Dr. Brian Privet, the president-elect of the Iowa Medical Society, joined Finkenauer at a Cedar Rapids hospital to discuss the issue.
Without immediate action, Iowa will fall further behind in the competition to recruit the next generation of physicians, and our seniors will face greater difficulty in accessing necessary medical care.
According to Finkenauer, Iowa doctors have the 7th lowest Medicare reimbursement rate in the country. An Iowa health coach accused of defrauding dozens of people who lost more than $6.5 million by investing in a gym program has taken a plea deal. U.S. District Court records say 49-year-old Mark Blankenspore pleaded guilty Friday to 1 count of wire fraud. Prosecutors dropped 23 more counts in return for his plea. His sentencing is scheduled for October 24th. Prosecutors say Blankenspore told investors from at least May 2013 through this past January that the medically oriented program would be licensed to fitness clinics nationwide and that investors could earn a 40% return on their money. But prosecutors say Blankenspore instead used the money for himself and to pay other investors. An author from Central Iowa is releasing a new book that focuses on the successes and stumbles of some of the region's most well-known figures. Aaron Putsey of Ankeny says his nonfiction book, You Are Destined for Greatness, is a compilation of lessons learned by those who have excelled in business, sports, academia, finance, retail, and elected office.
It's a book of inspiration and empowerment, stories that have been shared with me over the last few years by 27 notable and influential people, many with Midwest and Iowa roots.
The list includes former University of Iowa football star Chuck Long and his coach Hayden Fry, Ambassador and former Governor Terry Branstad, and Randy Edeker, Chairman and CEO of Hy-Vee. Putsey says his book zeroes in on how our attitudes and the choices we make impact everything we attempt and achieve.
We can all use a little bit more inspiration and aspiration in how we go about living our lives, especially during a time where there just seems to be a constant stream of negative news and negative information. We can all use our battery charge now and then.
Putsey says books sold through his website, putseyinc.com, will benefit the youth organization Junior Achievement. Transportation officials say Interstate 29 in northwest Missouri and southwest Iowa has been reopened as floodwaters recede. The interstate has been closed since May 29th because of flooding and flood-related damage. Reports say that traffic will be restricted to one lane in some stretches between St. Joseph and Interstate 80 in Iowa. Transportation officials warn travelers to plan ahead for gas or restroom breaks because several exits along the interstate from St. Joseph to US 34 in Glenwood, Iowa remain partially or completely closed. Iowans who have lost loved ones to pancreatic cancer are preparing for a trip to Washington, D.C. next week, and they're taking along a sort of secret weapon in the quest for more federal funds. Amy Jardin, who chairs the Cedar Falls affiliate of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, says an Iowa survivor of the nation's deadliest form of cancer will be joining their ranks.
On Tuesday, we go to Capitol Hill and we meet with our senators and our representatives and their office staff members to explain why we're passionate about pancreatic cancer, why we need more funding, and that we're there to ask for money.
The additional funding is needed for further research and to raise awareness about a type of cancer for which the vague symptoms are often ignored.
I'm optimistic that we'll get the same as what we asked for last year, but whether or not we would have the increase of funding that we ask for each year is always up in the air.
Jardin's mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2012 and died 13 days later. Typically, 70% of those who are diagnosed die within a year. A 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer is only 9%, which is why having a survivor as part of the 17-member Iowa delegation to Washington is so rare.
Congress members and their staff, they hear our stories and about our loved ones that we've lost, but when they are faced with a pancreatic cancer survivor, it is amazing what happens, magic that happens in the room.
Statistics find about 580 Iowans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year, and 430 of them will die from it. It's the third leading cause of cancer death in the United States and is expected to become the second leading cause of cancer death by 2020. Jardin says it will be a privilege to lobby alongside someone who's beaten all the odds.
They get a lot of respect, and they have the person with the Congress member's office has a lot of questions for a survivor. Because it is so unusual to meet with an actual survivor of pancreatic cancer.
The survival rate is slowly rising thanks to better treatments and more awareness. One goal is to double the survival rate within the next few years, which advocates say is possible through more research, clinical initiatives, patient services, and advocacy year-round. Symptoms can be vague, ranging from abdominal pain to back pain, changes in stool, yellowing skin, weight loss, appetite loss, and a feeling of being full after only eating a little food. Thursday is National Call Congress Day, where people are asked to urge their elected officials to make cancer research a national priority. You can learn more at pancan.org/call Congress. From the newsroom, I'm Jesse Stewart reporting.
From the Fox Business Network on Wall Street, the major averages closing in the green after the Federal Reserve left its key interest rate unchanged and signaled that no cuts are coming for this year unless economic conditions weaken. Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
In light of increased uncertainties and muted inflation pressures, we now emphasize that the committee will closely monitor the implications of incoming information for the economic outlook and will act as appropriate to sustain the expansion with a strong labor market and inflation near its 2% objective.
The central bank is also penciling in one interest rate cut for next year, with the Dow rising 38 points, NASDAQ up 33, S&P 500 up 9. And Panera Bread is making a move to expand beyond the breakfast and lunch crowd. The chain announcing that it will be testing its new dinner-centric menu in restaurants in Lexington, Kentucky in July before expanding.
Hang on, Ed, about a minute.
No worries.
The power to garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts, and even take your home or business. That's all true. But thankfully, they're offering a way out. The Fresh Start Initiative. If you qualify, you could save thousands. The experts at Optima Tax Relief will fight to get you the best possible tax settlement, and they have an A+ rating with the BBB. Call Optima for your free consultation.
Call 800-410-6744. 800-410-6744.
Optima Tax Relief.
Give your backyard an update with landscape and patio blocks and save with 11% off everything. Whether it's flawless landscaping, a spacious patio, or a sturdy retaining wall, there's no limit to what you can create. Pick up 12-inch smooth patio block for just 97 cents each after sale price and 11% off. Save with 11% off everything at Menards. Good through June 22nd. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
It's Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right, 60 rounds of freedom. We have it here at all times. One of the rounds is on the air with me right now. Big Ed from Georgia joins us once again. Always a pleasure to have you on the air with us, Ed. I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something that might surprise you. One of the guys I respect, and I got this from Congressman Steve King. One of the men in the world that I admire is Senator Bernie Sanders. And I'm going to tell you why. And this came out of a conversation that Congressman King and I had about an hour ago. Congressman King didn't really think that Bernie Sanders was sincere when he was saying he was a socialist. So he saw him in the White House, not in the White House, but in Washington somewhere. Senator Sanders was seated off some distance from Congressman King, and Congressman King walked right over, sat down beside him, and said, Senator Sanders, you've been saying that you're a socialist, but you're not really a socialist, are you? And Bernie Sanders looked right at him and said, yes, I am. Now, if a man gives me a straight answer to a straight question, I respect him. So I respect Bernie Sanders over all of his mealy-mouthed opponents in the Democratic primary. I appreciate that. Don't you like somebody like that, Ed?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wish he would have told him that he was a card-carrying communist like he was about 20 years ago or something like that.
Well, he did take his honeymoon in Moscow, which is kind of a weird selection for your honeymoon, I got to tell you.
Well, I mean, he is. He's telling the truth, and he's got a big following, and it's sad because the millennials are going to wake up one day and say, I don't have any rights. All I do is live for the government, off the government, or with the government, or whatever. I'm a government individual.
I told my liberal friends and acquaintances for years, they changed the culture with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just started making stuff up and saying it was constitutional. You can think how you want about Roe versus Wade, but there's really nothing in the Constitution that would lead you to believe that a legalized abortion is in the Constitution. Nothing, really. But as a matter of fact, Justice Blackmun, who wrote the Roe versus Wade decision, said in later years that we had to have a legal abortion if women were ever going to be free and free individuals. Well, I understand that's a point, but that doesn't mean that abortion rights are in the Constitution, because they are not. And I told my friends over the years, the gay marriage decision came along, and oh gosh, they were just doing handstands over how wonderful the Supreme Court was. And I told them at the time, and I kept telling them over the years, sooner or later we're going to have a conservative, and he's going to start picking conservative Supreme Court justices, and it's all going to be different. I do not wish Justice Breyer or Justice Ginsburg harm or evil, but if one of them dies, and they are elderly people, Justice Ginsburg's in her 80s, and she's had 3 different cancer scares in the last year. If one of those justices, God forbid, pass away, President Trump will have another conservative on the court, and we'll be in a new world. Now that freaks liberals out. It doesn't freak me out, but as far as I'm concerned, that's their just desserts. Do you think much about that, Ed?
I do. It's extremely important to keep conservative people on the bench on the Supreme Court. It's absolutely because they have a lot of control, and I'm worried about the Electoral College. That's big with me. I want to keep it, and all Iowans, with the sound of my voice, need to rethink. If you're thinking that the popular vote is going to be good for America, you're absolutely on the wrong page. You are lost like a ball in high weeds.
Well, there was a guy out in California by the name of B1 Bob. What he was a congressman. Bob, gosh, what the heck was his name? I'll think of it here in a minute. But he was a California congressman and a conservative, and he was a big supporter of the B1 bomber that was manufactured in his congressional district back in the early 80s. That's how he got his nickname, B1 Bob. But B1 Bob ran against a woman called Linda Sanchez. I don't think Linda Sanchez was a Hispanic. I think she married a Hispanic man, but she used that name, or maybe she was Hispanic, but used her husband's name, who was non-Hispanic. I can't remember exactly. But the point is, Bob Dornan, that's what his name, Congressman Bob Dornan. Bob Dornan was finally defeated for re-election by a couple of things. Gerrymandering, first of all, in the state of California. They were getting the conservative old white guys out, the Republicans out. And several, like hundreds, 600 or 700 illegals voted against Dornan in the election. And there was a suspicion, though no, not proven, that number was considerably higher. So, yeah, the Democrats will do anything to win an election.
Oh, I don't put nothing past them.
No, I don't either. No, that was B1 Bob, and B1 Bob, believe it or not, was a radio talk show host for a while, so I kind of liked him anyway.
Yeah, I heard that.
And here,
I want to give you. I want to say, I was at the race Sunday.
All right, where were you at?
I ran into Jeff and Ann. Jeff worked for Menards.
Oh yeah.
And I also ran into Brad Strutzenberg and his good buddy Dan, and they said they knew you.
Oh yeah, I've known Brad. I've known Brad a long, long time. I don't get to see him much, but he's a great guy. And Jeff and Ann Fazer are terrific people. As a matter of fact, she is a nurse practitioner. She works at the clinic right across the street from the radio station. I saw her just the other day. I needed some blood work done. So yeah, okay. They're great people.
Well, hey, the big thing to me was, you know what they said? I said I was on the radio once in a while with Michael Devine. You are? I said, yeah. I'm Big Ed. We know Big Ed. We love Big Ed. We didn't know who he was or anything, but I absolutely loved it. I guarantee it.
I bet you did. Big Ed for you. You're getting a name, buddy.
Well, I'll tell you, like you said. There's probably not anybody that loves this country any more than I do. I mean, I know there's millions and millions that love it just as much as I do. But I'm fighting for all Americans to have a good life, and I think Trump is doing that. I think he's changing things for the better, and I hope that people within the sound of my voice will keep America red and keep Iowa red in the red column. And, the thing I appreciate you, the Truth Doctor, because you're a person that you say you're a Democrat, and I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, but we agree on we want to make America great. We don't want to see America go down the tubes.
And, of course, the mantra of the Democratic Party is we're just one of the countries. There's nothing exceptional about us. I mean, we've committed sin. We committed slavery. Never mind that 3 of my great uncles died in Andersonville prison camp fighting slavery. We're guilty of slavery. Now, they're debating right now in the House reparations for slavery. You point to me to a person in this country who was a slave in this country. You won't find one. And don't tell me that we owe money going back 5 generations. That's absurd. But there's hearings right now. That's what I mean. If we lose the Senate and the House again, and we lose the presidency, we'll be paying for sins that we never committed. but we're going to make.
And we'll lose the country.
And
we will absolutely lose the country.
We're going to be vilified as racist if we protest. And people who say they know better than we do and are better than we are will take our money and give it to people who didn't earn it. Because they don't. And by the way, the all cultures are equal crowd. Here's another story, and I gave this to Congressman King in the last hour. A 17-year-old girl in Pakistan, her mother burned her to death because the young girl wanted to marry a man not of her mother's choosing. The police found the poor young girl. She showed signs of torture and strangulation, and then her mother burned her to death. She told the police, the mother told the police, I have no regrets.
That is what's going on now.
That's
the extremists in the Muslim faith, a lot of them, if you become westernized, they kill you, and then they call it defending their honor.
Wow. That's a leap, isn't it? And
it is a leap. Now you believe I'm telling the truth, right?
Oh hell yes, I know you are.
You come right. Thank you. That's coming from the truth, doctor. That means a lot.
No, I don't have any problem with that. The people I cannot believe who sit there and insist that our country and our way of life, our culture, our faith are somehow no better or no worse, and in a lot of ways worse than cultures in other countries. And by the way, because we fail by winning the battle of history, by the way, how's that for upside down reasoning? The United States wins the battle of history. They defeat the Soviet Union and all the evil that was in the Soviet Union. We defeat them by pitting our economies against each other. We win, and for God's sake, it was the Democratic Party will say, you have won, therefore everybody resents us, and they're justified in attacking us or in hating us. They're spiteful and jealous, and they don't like the fact that I think that communism failed.
Well, you know what I think? I think that you cannot take God out of this country.
Oh, yes,
If you start taking religion, God out of this country, we have lost it.
Oh, well, the Supreme Court did that long time ago, Ed, long time ago. Probably about 1962, they took prayer out of the public schools. And by the way, there was an Islamist woman the other day giving a speech where she said we need to teach children Islam in our schools. And by the way, Ed, that's exactly what's going on in a lot of our country's schools. They're being given a multicultural education that gives you a little insight into all religions. And of course, it's non-judgmental education. So they will teach Islam in a positive light. They'll do the same thing with Judaism and Christianity, but they will teach that Islam is just another faith. Just another faith.
It couldn't be farther from the truth. It's either their way or the highway.
That's right. That's right. Muhammad was a warrior, and he wanted to conquer, and he did. And he wasn't the Prince of Peace. That was Jesus Christ.
That's right.
But
that's right. That's what people have to be aware of. That we better never lose sight of who God is with Jehovah God, and we better not lose sight of Jesus Christ. Because if we do, you're going to live one not so good life.
Well, I worry about my grandchildren, Ed. I'm getting on in years. You're getting, yeah. You also have a lot going against you. I have a lot going against you. We're white people and we're hardworking, so that's a big drawback. But I do worry about my grandchildren. I don't know what will happen to them if these authoritarian thugs masquerading as the Democratic Party seize power and begin to assert control over our daily lives, because that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. The people that voted for Trump, the people that support Trump to this day, need to go to education camps. You may no longer think that way because it's dangerous to liberalism and all that's good and holy. And they're, of course, good and holy. So
we're at a crossroads. I tell you that. We're at a serious crossroads, because The Democrats have about 10 million more registered Democrats, and they also do not have voter ID pictures, and many of the states, like about 43 of them, and cheating is a big factor. So we're up against the wall.
Yeah, we are. And that'll come out more and more and more. President Trump won't be able to say one single thing unless it's sexist or racist or some sort of thing. And every flaw he may have ever had in his life will be highlighted on all 3 network channels, and certainly most cable channels. By the way, those who complain about Fox News and, oh, look, President Trump has his own network, for God's sake, are you looking at what's happening with MSNBC? Those people are hateful in the extreme. I mean, Rachel Maddow has been named one of the moderators at the first Democratic Party debate. Rachel Maddow? Are you kidding me? What does that tell you? What does that tell you about the Democratic Party to have an obsessed activist who is a bitter little woman, really, an obsessed activist like Rachel Maddow as part of the moderating panel at the Democratic Party debates? That means MSNBC holds big sway within the Democratic Party. They have a lot to say about the Democratic Party, and that's the name of that tune, really.
Well, you know, they hired Van Jones on CNN, and he was a communist and a socialist. And when they found that out, he was supposed to be the green job czar, and they got rid of him. But then here they come with him again to talk hateful about our president day in and day out, and it's unreasonable.
That's putting it mildly there, Ed. I got to tell you. Yes, that's very unreasonable. We've been talking with Big Ed from Georgia. It's always a pleasure to have you on the air, sir.
Well, and the feeling is likewise, and I hope to see you at some point in time. And last thing, Big Ed from Georgia, pleading with all people, we must keep America conservative. Democrats believe Americans are lost like a ball in high weed. I urge all Americans within the range of my AM 1400 listeners and then the Michael Devine, the Truth Doctor show, a true life Democrat who is a very fine man.
Thank you, sir. I look forward
You're very welcome.
I look forward to talking with you again.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Take care.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I want to give you the weather forecast. I always like to talk to Big Ed. Always like to talk with Big Ed. Yes, I do. But I want to give you the weather forecast here first of all. It's 76 degrees right now. That's actually higher than the projected day's high, but that's nothing unusual. Mostly cloudy today. 76 will probably be our high. Mostly to partly cloudy for the rest of today. Overnight, partly cloudy, then becoming clear with a low of 56. Slight chance of showers tomorrow with a high of 75. More rain on Friday with a high of 79 or 80. Saturday, slight chance of rain. Otherwise sunny with a high of 83 degrees. On Sunday, again, a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Cloudy with a high of 81. Monday, it'll be sunny with a high of 80. And Tuesday, sunny with a high of 84. I like Monday and Tuesday because there's no rain forecast. 76 degrees right now at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Vilda Thurston Peterson of Pioneer has died. She died Wednesday, June 12th at Humboldt South Care Hospital, or South Care Center, rather. There was a service honoring Vilda's life, and that happened Saturday at here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
What if you had your own personal recruiter to help you find a better job? And they would say, hey, I found a company that likes your profile and may even pay you more. Well, if you had a personal recruiter, that's what they'd do. But now, ZipRecruiter's technology can do that for you. Just download the free ZipRecruiter job search app, customize your job matches, and its technology does the work. It hustles for you to find jobs you'll like and puts your profile in front of employers who may be looking for someone just like you. If a company likes your profile, ZipRecruiter lets you know. And if you are interested, you can apply. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated job search app. And based on a third-party survey, 7 out of 10 people who found a new job on ZipRecruiter increased their salaries. So download the free ZipRecruiter app today and put the power of technology to work for you.
Results of a 2017 U.S. survey of over 500 ZipRecruiter users who got hired for a job they found on ZipRecruiter.
Frontier Days 2019 was a huge success, and the Fort Museum and Frontier Village would like to thank the following sponsors: Alpha Media, Trophies Unlimited, Blizzard Creek Blues Society, Bob Uni, Hopkins Insurance, Bob Roby Belgian Horses, James and Lori Kirsten and Family, Kingsgate Insurance Center, Webster County Crime Stoppers, Pedersen Sanitation, Arbor Pro, Elanco, Electronic Engineering, Modern Sound Engineering, and CJ Bio America. Thanks again to the sponsors of Frontier Days 2019 from the Fort Museum and Frontier Village.
This is Gary Rima, the voice of the UNI Panthers, and you can listen to exciting Panther sports right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD.
Former White
Fort
House
Dodge.
insider appearing before a House panel behind closed doors. Fox's Jaron Halpern live on Capitol Hill.
Former White House advisor and communications director Hope Hicks did not answer questions about her time in the administration. House Judiciary Committee Democrats say after President Trump asserted executive privilege.
I think we'll have to move toward court proceedings to delve into those questions more deeply.
Texas Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee called Hicks a building block in the investigation into potential wrongdoing. Top Judiciary Committee Republican Doug Collins says nothing's changed.
We took 8 hours to find out really what most of us knew at the beginning. There was not a lot to this hearing.
Hicks is now an executive vice president and chief communications officer for the Fox Corporation. Lisa.
Jared, the House approving a bill which includes automatic renewal of the Hyde Amendment, which bars federal funding for abortions.
It is a plank of the Democratic Party to repeal Hyde and make sure that low-income women also are able to access the health care they need and deserve.
Massachusetts Democrat Catherine Clark, the vote was 226 to 203, with no Republicans voting in favor and 7 Democratic defections. The bill was the first spending package of the 2020 cycle. It also funds the Pentagon, energy and water programs, and some cabinet departments. Mexico becoming the first country to ratify the new trade deal with the U.S. and Canada. Canada moving ahead to ratify the deal, but there are questions here in the U.S. whether Democrats will back it. As expected, the Fed did not make any changes on interest rates.
The central bank wrapping up its 2-day policy meeting and will be leaving the benchmark interest rate unchanged between 2.25% and 2.5%. A divided Fed signaling there are no cuts coming for this year, but did hint they could cut rates in the months ahead if...
Fox's Hillary Barsky. This is Fox News.
All right, welcome to F-150 Radio. Call from Georgia. Chad, what's shaking in Macon?
I know the F-150 kicks butt and takes names.
Like how the high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy F-150 thrashes the competition with best-in-class towing and torque?
Mm-hmm, not surprised. Totally saw that coming.
Chad, how do you know so much about F-150 beating the competition?
I drive the competition. Got a 10-year lease.
Kind of embarrassing, huh?
Maybe I shouldn't advertise that fact on a national talk radio show.
Good call. The Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar.
Best-in-class claims with properly configured vehicles. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds. GVWR based on Ford segmentation.
Now get a 2019 F-150 with 0% financing for 72 months. Only at your Ford dealer. Not all buyers will qualify for Ford credit financing. 0% APR financing for 72 months at $13.89 per month per thousand finance, regardless of down payment. Program number 21040 on 2019 Ford F-150. Not available on Raptor. Residency restrictions apply. Take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stock by 7/1/19. See dealer for qualifications and complete details.
Reaching a verdict in the case of the leader of a so-called self-help group accused of...
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news from the newsroom. I'm Jesse Stewart reporting for Bob Fisher. Democratic Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer of Dubuque is sponsoring legislation aimed at increasing pay for rural doctors.
Iowa doctors have been shortchanged by a government formula that underestimates the cost of labor and practice expenses.
Doctors in rural areas are paid far less for the care they provide elderly Medicare patients. The formula is meant to account for cost of living differences, but Iowa doctors say it's not covering all their expenses.
And for 2 decades, our healthcare providers have asked for an accurate formula, one that allows them to stay open and keep serving their patients.
Dr. Brian Privet, the president-elect of the Iowa Medical Society, joined Finkenauer at a Cedar Rapids hospital to discuss the issue.
Without immediate action, Iowa will fall further behind in the competition to recruit the next generation of physicians, and our seniors will face greater difficulty in accessing necessary medical care.
According to Finkenauer, Iowa doctors have the 7th lowest Medicare reimbursement rate in the country. An Iowa health coach accused of defrauding dozens of people who lost more than $6.5 million by investing in a gym program has taken a plea deal. U.S. District Court records say 49-year-old Mark Blanketspore pleaded guilty Friday to 1 count of wire fraud. Prosecutors dropped 23 more counts in return for his plea. His sentencing is scheduled for October 24th. Prosecutors say Blanketspore told investors from at least May 2013 through this past January that the medically oriented program would be licensed to fitness clinics nationwide and that investors could earn a 40% return on their money. But prosecutors say Blanketspore instead used the money for himself and to pay other investors. An author from Central Iowa is releasing a new book that focuses on the successes and stumbles of some of the region's most well-known figures. Aaron Putsey of Ankeny says his nonfiction book, You Are Destined for Greatness, is a compilation of lessons learned by those who have excelled at business, sports, academia, finance, retail, and elected office.
It's a book of inspiration and empowerment, stories that have been shared with me over the last few years by 27 notable and influential people, with many with Midwest and Iowa roots.
The list includes former University of Iowa football star Chuck Long and his coach Hayden Fry, Ambassador and former Governor Terry Branstad, and Randy Edeker, Chairman and CEO of Hy-Vee. Putsey says his book zeroes in on how our attitudes and the choices we make impact everything we attempt and achieve.
We can all use a little bit more inspiration and aspiration in how we go about living our lives, especially during a time where there just seems to be a constant stream of negative news and negative information. We can all use our battery charge now and then.
Putsey says books sold through his website, putseyinc.com, will benefit the youth organization.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey, your host. Thank you for joining us. Open phones at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Lee's with us in Indianapolis. Hi, Lee. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hi, Dave. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. How can I help?
So most of my life, I struggled with crippling anxiety and depression. But on May 3rd of this year, God healed me.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. I am now taking a look at my situation, and I'm absolutely not happy with it. Where my husband and I are making about $35,000 a year, and that's with me now working more. And we're in a bunch of debt, and I hardly even know where to start, or even like if we can do much with where we are right now.
Okay. How much debt do you guys have?
67,000 at least, probably more. We're going to go over the numbers exactly this Friday.
Okay. And what's the 67,000 on?
Well, I know 60 for sure of student loans. We'll start paying on them next year. And just off the top of my head, I know of $7,000 more that we owe, but there's probably several more.
Okay. Do you have car payments?
One car right now. Yeah.
What do you owe on it?
I think that's down to about 5,000.
Okay. That's good. Okay. And what do you do for a living?
I am a barista, and my husband is a junior programmer, soon to actually have a degree behind his name.
Okay. So he's getting ready to finish a degree in technology?
Yes. Next March he'll have his degree.
Okay. Is
Or
this
next May,
a
yeah.
4-year degree or a 2-year certification program or what?
4-year degree.
Okay. In information systems or information technology or what?
He's doing database management, I believe. Yeah.
And is he going to school full time now?
Part-time. He is working in the field right now full time, so he's only been able to do a few classes a semester.
Yeah. So what does he make?
I'm sorry?
What does he make?
He makes right now about $30,000 a year before taxes. My job right now doesn't pay much. I'm planning on getting as many hours as possible. But also with where I'm at, they will pay for schooling for me. So I don't want to leave there if they're going to buck up that much.
Okay, I'm a little confused as to why a junior programmer that's about to graduate with a 4-year degree is only making 30 grand.
Right now, he's working for a small company, but soon he's going to start talking to recruiters and find out what he's worth.
He's
especially
worth
with the
more, he's
degree.
worth double what he's making today before he graduates.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. He needs to be looking at his career right now and be looking for what it'll look like after he graduates as well. If he's getting ready to be mid-level with very little experience data management, I mean, yeah, he ought to be making 60 anyway.
Wow.
So you need to be looking at that. So one of the things you've got to do is you guys have to sit down and really focus on the income side of your equation as well as the outgo side, right? And you have to think about, okay, what is it that you want to be doing 10 years from now? How old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay. So are you going to be a 38-year-old person working in a coffee shop?
I hope not.
Okay. So no. It's not about hope. It's about laying out a plan and executing the plan. If you just hope, you will be. Okay. So what do you want to be doing 10 years from now that's going to make you $50,000 to $150,000 a year?
I want to be doing something with environmental science, preferably freshwater.
Environmental what?
Science.
Plants?
Yeah, going through essentially like helping mostly probably residential ponds and everything, giving them what they need to actually be good, thriving ponds. I'm hoping that I can get into some more of the nonprofit stuff with larger rivers and lakes and things. But
and that pays $50,000 or $100,000 a year. And there's more than 2 jobs in the U.S. that do that. I've never even heard of that.
I'm hoping. I haven't looked into it too much.
I think you probably need to broaden your game plan here. Obviously, you have a heart for that. But what I'm asking is not only about your heart, but also what you're actually going to do with your hours in the day that are going to create wealth for your family. And that's not just heart, and that's not a nonprofit, and that's not that kind of stuff. That is, what am I going to be doing as my career field? So I make so much money that I can donate to things that I am worried about in the environment or things like that. That may be your better route. I don't know. You may be able to work in that field as a biologist and make $200,000 a year. I don't know. I've just never heard of it. Cool. I just can't think that there's a ton of residential pond and environmental plant people out there. That sounds very narrow to me. And so I want you to have a clear path of what you're going to be doing and how you're going to get there and how much you're going to make, then that gives you hope, because you're not going to be doing this on $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's really not your